Boy, what just happened here? As SmackDown ended, we're going to talk about that. What happened to start the show? What happened in the middle of it? And what else is going on here in the world of wrestling? We'll talk about it here and more with our senior wrestling analyst. He is also a man that dabbled in the wrestling world for a period of time. He trained under a heart. He is also the host of the Hockey Fan Chat. He will be there at Survivor Series 2 weeks from now. He is none other than Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer, Mr. Randy Dillon. Randy, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing good, Tom. How are you? My word for SmackDown, it was interesting because there was a lot of questions that are being asked.
A lot of questions, and I watched almost the entire SmackDown, which I can say is the first time I've done that in a long time. And I guess I'll start where I basically segued us here on live here on Sportswire Radio's YouTube page, Twitch, LinkedIn, X, sportswireradio.org, and a few other places that you might be able to catch us here. Is that a phone call was made by Roman Reigns to, we assume, the wise man, Paul Heyman, who we haven't seen in months. And it seemed like, well, that phone number was disconnected. So for those that are listening and watching here, Randy Dillon in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform where all wrestling matters here on Sports by Radio. I guess Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns don't necessarily have each other's phone number these days, huh?
No, that maybe he should try X and see if he can get a hold of Heyman that way. But
Blue Sky, maybe even soon.
yeah, or Instagram for crying out loud.
That's
Maybe
true too. Instagram, yeah.
Contact his kids, but that might not be a good thing in his view. But
well, yeah,
that threw a curveball at me because a lot of people were asking me, "Oh, is it going to be Seth? That's going to be the fifth member." Because what we saw early in the show, and I'm like, I don't think so. I think it's going to be someone else, a friend of the wise man, and now the wise man's his phone's not working. Had the wise man joined the final boss and the board of directors of TKO and WWE at this point? Has he changed his alliances? Because we've seen Heyman in the past, he's done that.
Yeah, and then, speaking of the other bloodline there, Bronson Reed seems like he's the fifth member, especially after what he did to Roman Reigns. And, I mean, so if Paul's number is disconnected, I mean, where does the OG bloodline go from here? I mean, that's really, to me, the biggest question at the moment.
I don't like if he goes to Seth. Like, I'm going to straight out say Seth is not the guy to bring in. Now,
he's got history with him, though. He's got history.
Rollins, they have anger. Now, the one other guy I think of, an old rival, someone who's on his farewell tour, Mr. John Cena, who's never done a War Games. Could Roman be that desperate? Because we got to remember, Solo took out Cena almost a year ago.
But Cena and Roman aren't exactly buddy-buddy. I mean, that would take a lot for Roman to call Cena.
It would take a lot, but a desperate man and an enemy of my enemy is my friend, as they always say. That's why I think, could it be Cena?
And there's no chance it's Cody Rhodes?
I don't think so. I think they did the right move by, bringing in Bronson Reed, because Bronson and Cody had really nothing going on there. And I think Cody's really focused with Kevin Owens. So I think this is the right move. Now, I could see Cody Rhodes maybe coming out during the match if the final boss, The Rock, shows up, which I think there's a lot of speculation, but I don't think Cody's going to be in the match at all.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, I mean, the obvious answer for the fifth member, would it be Dwayne Johnson? We saw a commercial today for him in a movie. We saw him on a late night talk show. I mean, so what do you make of that?
That would be probably the biggest coup, I think, of all, because if the final fifth member is The Rock comes out and...
Well, you said Seth, you were kind of like...
Seth just doesn't make sense because all the battles he's done with Roman. I know they reunited the Shield before Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, but we go back to all the comments Seth has said about Roman, and even on Mondays about that. It just... especially what Roman did to him after WrestleMania, before their hate between WrestleMania.
See, my thing about Cena, wasn't Cena announced that he was starting his farewell tour at the Royal Rumble?
He announced he's going to be in the Rumble. That's what I heard. He's going, and I think that's perfect advertising. Listen, everyone wants to see him.
So would you bring him in for a match before the Rumble? Wouldn't it just be smart money to say he's starting the 1 year journey at the Rumble and then it's going to build into as long as he can go? Or you think that he can pull this off at Survivor Series? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
I think he could pull off a short stint in Survivor Series, similar to what Orton did last year when he made his return, do some moves, throw some hits, and then deliver an AA.
Well, I think Cena's not really injured. I think Cena could probably go in there for like 5 or 6 minutes, I would imagine. But I think here after the phone call that where Heyman's number is disconnected, Roman doesn't have it. That, I mean, to me, the option has to be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. That's just the way I would think.
The Rock, or he goes really desperate and gets Seth Rollins. What it makes sense. Like I can understand Rollins and Bronson Reed's been battling, but it just in the long term speculation, especially if they do want to do a Roman versus Seth match, which they've been pushing and speculating for years, it doesn't make sense to say, hey, we're back together again for one night.
Well, it has to be somebody that's got history with the bloodline in Roman, right? So we know that Cena's definitely got history with the bloodline in Roman. We would know that Seth is definitely, I mean, Seth has got plenty of history with Roman, let alone anybody else. And then The Rock, it's obviously family. So is there any other options for the OG bloodline? Is there any other curveballs, or it's pretty much it's cut and dry now that it's Heyman's numbers disconnected? Roman can't go to him for advice. He's got essentially 2 more SmackDowns, and I'm assuming, or maybe they'll be on Raw to figure this out. And pretty much there's, to me, the only 2 names that come out there. I'll give you Cena, but it's got to be Rollins or The Rock.
Now the only other name I can speculate, and the reason why I speculate is one CM Punk, because he had advertised to be there.
Yeah, he was my next name. I was gonna say it's always got to be about Punk. It's always got to be about Punk.
That's the only other name, but this throw the curveball because Heyman was the only bridge between these two. Without Heyman,
but the number was disconnected. So
that's my point there, Tom. And now that the number disconnected, how much of reality is CM Punk? Because I don't think it's going to be Drew McIntyre. We've seen Drew McIntyre hate with the bloodline. Braun Strowman, I know he has history with Roman, but he's out. It's not going to be Sheamus, who he has history with.
Got no real history with them.
They don't have really any.
It's got to be names that got significant history. We're talking like, all right, Cena, I'll give you. I'm still under the impression he's starting at the Royal Rumble. The Rock,
the first Raw on Netflix. Like I would say, let's say Cena's first night will be officially the first Raw on Netflix.
Okay, but you're building him. You're saving him for the Netflix. You're not to bring him in Survivor Series. I mean, I guess theoretically you could do it, but I don't know. I just, to me, doesn't it have to be The Rock?
The Rock, I think, is the best option, but I just feel The Rock and the turn is going to be a little bit too obvious because, and I don't even think The Rock can handle even doing a War game because at least I think Cena
would
actually.
Cena could be in there for a few minutes. The Rock ain't going to be in there much longer.
No, like Cena, I can see maybe going through a table. I could see Cena getting thrown against the cage and maybe getting a splash. Rock, I don't see him doing any of this. So the only thing you bring The Rock is for him just to turn and to shut the door and tell everyone to beat up.
Well, let me ask you conversely a question. I see there's some people here in the chat. We'll say hello to them in a few minutes, and we'll be joined with the regular guys here at about, I'd say, 40 minutes or so. Justin Gianelli's back. We'll see what Chris Pizzaglia has to say. And Alan Michaels, I believe, will be here. So we'll talk some football and some other things then. But Bronson Reed, what did you think about that as an addition for the Solo Sikoa bloodline there? What did you think about that?
Bronson Reed's stock has, since August, has climbed mentally. This is the ultimate test for him to show, can he solidify himself as the next kind of dominant monster?
What's different with him versus Omos? Remember, Omos was getting pushed all those years ago. They were putting him in those spots. So what do you think will be different for Bronson Reed that maybe he can hang in there and maybe he'll get this rub and the rub will put him consistently in these opportunities that he's getting? What do you think will be the difference?
Bronson Reed reminds me kind of a mix of Umaga and Kane. He had the size and the ability of Umaga, but just the dominance we've seen in the destruction Kane did. Now, not the level of Kane setting people on fire, their testicles with car wires and so many other things, but he's just leaving that path of destruction where this guy comes out, it's just like he destroying everything. And I think he's really solidified that the next big monster. And he can talk. Bronson Reed has shown he can deliver promos as well. That was one thing Kane had the benefit of. So,
and he looked like he fitted in there. He looked like he fitted in there with the new bloodline.
No, absolutely. You look at what he did to Braun Strowman on Raw, their feud, and kind of what he done with Seth. I think Seth getting a kind of a convincing win over Bronson Reed, I think it's a little questionable. I would like to see maybe Seth just kind of surviving a few weeks ago, but it is what it is. But I think Bronson Reed is building what Triple H believed this guy was going to be in NXT in 2021, and took him a while to get there, but he's becoming like a dominant monster.
I want to throw a curveball at you, and you're going to probably chuckle at this, just from the opening segment with the OG bloodline, where you saw Sami Zayn, and he kind of had these different facial mannerisms, and we know the whole thing with LA Knight didn't work. Is there any chance in any way that Sami Zayn would turn on the OG bloodline?
I don't think so. At this point, I think if Sami doesn't really need to be, I think Sami has established himself as a strong baby face. I think he's established himself for being that baby face people want to see, get around to cheer. He's getting kind of like that Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio territory where you want to cheer for this guy. Okay. You believe in him.
Based on the facial mannerisms and even how Roman still treated him. I mean, we've seen just again with how Jimmy Uso looks at him, just throwing it out there.
I think before Survivor Series, we're going to see some confrontations with Sami and Jay because Jay even said, I'll go to last week. Jay said, told Roman, you get one free pass. I'm not going to stand back and take that. And I think Sami's also going to say, this isn't the same guy. I'm not the same guy in 2022 who lost to Johnny Knoxville trying to find my way. I main evented WrestleMania. I beat someone in the light of Gunther. I've held the IC title. I beat guys like Braun Breaker and
beat a guy in Gunther that had the greatest run of any Intercontinental Champion physically or statistically in history. There's no question that run will probably never be topped. So yeah, he's had some great moments, but I just had to at the very least throw it out.
Tom, to answer your question, I don't think Sami's going to turn, but I don't think Sami's going to back down if things get
okay. Bad. So let me go back to Heyman for a minute. Let me go back to Heyman here, and one thing on Heyman. Now, we know that Heyman hasn't been on TV, what's it now, 4 months now? About 4 months, right? 4 months, what happened to him at the Garden, right? 4 months ago. So when do you think we will see Paul Heyman on WWE TV again?
Do we see him at Survivor Series coming out with The Rock?
I mean, the phone's disconnected. So, I mean, there's obviously got to be some catch. I mean, if it's The Rock, right? I mean, is The Rock with Heyman? Is he not with Heyman? I mean, is Heyman with Solo in this bloodline and maybe he just falls in line? Or, like I said, where do we go with Paul Heyman?
Paul Heyman, this has really become interesting because Paul Heyman's a talker. Now, we saw him with CM Punk in 2012, 2013, where he just kind of stood there. But I don't think Paul Heyman needs to be with The Rock, especially how part-time The Rock's going to be. But I guess Paul Heyman's that kind of that mouthpiece representing The Rock. But it's really interesting territory with Heyman now, where what he's going to do, because now we've seen him turn, but it's just, what is he going to do at this point after all what he did with Roman, the connection and everything? And like,
I mean, can Heyman be a character on screen that people cheer for?
I don't know. That's the thing. I think Paul Heyman throughout his whole career has been the medical mastermind, other than when he was running ECW. I think
ECW was a completely different
animal. But yeah, I think you look at him with Lesnar, you look at him with Big Show and Angle, you look at him with CM
Don't
Punk.
Mention
Ryback. Ryback, that was embarrassing. I'd rather mention Curtis Axel and Cesaro.
You mentioned Punk. Throw Punk, obviously.
Yeah, but you look at what Heyman does. Heyman's always been kind of this mastermind genius to give someone the upper hand. A good guy doesn't want the upper hand. So
yeah, and it just wouldn't. It doesn't quite make sense. Now, Heyman with The Rock would sort of, I suppose, makes sense if they're going their own way and he's on the board of directors. I mean, I guess we'll have to find out. We'll certainly do that. Before I get to the chat, let me ask you then in terms of, let's go back to Cody Rhodes for a second. The whole storyline with Nick Aldis and Cody wanting a piece, and then we see Kevin Owens later on and basically not allowed to enter SmackDown tonight. I mean, what did you make of that segment, and where do we go from here with Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens?
This is very interesting, especially how it all started. You going back to September when people are saying, "Oh, why does Cody giving Kevin a title match?" We're seeing a different side of Kevin Owens, and we saw him like he's thinking Cody Rhodes, this great guy. Oh my goodness, it's Cody Rhodes. You gotta listen to him, all that kind of stuff. But it's like no, I'm tired of this. He's a traitor and all that. And I think Kevin Owens is seeing a dangerous side of him where he thinks I'm doing it for everyone else. And I think he's doing it for everyone else where it's like, I'm doing it. The fact is I'm standing up for what I believe is right, that we all don't need to be buddies with the bloodline after everything they've done with him.
But just, we talk about in the segment with Cody Rhodes and Nick Aldis, and Nick Aldis's wrestling career is sort of referenced, and then it's talked about. Cody Rhodes says Randy Orton calls him "Hey Codester," and he talks about just the past that they had. And I mean, we're certainly going down that road in terms of maybe building for a match with Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens to eventually lead us into a Randy Orton Cody Rhodes match. I kind of got that feeling a little bit in some way or another. What did you think about the way that segment transpired? Mentioning a name that Cody Rhodes didn't like to be called, talking about Randy Orton, obviously referring to him at the very beginning of his career, and just talking about just everything about WrestleMania 40, the year that Cody Rhodes has had, and then talking about Randy Orton in a way that we're not used to Randy Orton being talked about, and the fragileness of his neck and his back, and among other things that was referenced. So is that eventually leading us to a match where we see Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, because Randy Orton doesn't like to have anyone feel sympathy for him and he turns on Cody? Is that what we're going for eventually?
Absolutely, Tom. You hit the nail on the head there. Like Cody Rhodes pulling the points out saying, I can't remember the name, but he's like, I don't like that name. But we saw Coaster, something like that. Coaster, and then Randy Orton,
in the chat will correct us.
He even called out Triple H saying, "Don't look at me as this poor person. I am who I am. I don't care what happened." And I think the fact is Orton's gonna be fired, because we've seen the hints where Orton has stared at the title where he wants to break Flair's record. But now I think the fact is he's looking at a guy in Cody Rhodes saying, "Oh, I've carried this company. You left. I got injured." And
listen,
I'm a charity case.
And Cody Rhodes left WWE for a long time, and he was away from the company for a better part of 5 years, 5+ years. He was away from the company, so that's a long time.
And Randy Orton had to carry that company, so definitely it's going to happen. Whether it happens at the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, it's going to come ahead.
Well, what would you want it to be seen at? Would you want it at the Rumble? Do you want to see it at WrestleMania? I mean, if we're not going the route of Cody back with the bloodline, does that mean it's Randy and Cody at Mania, or are we doing this at Rumble and then we're putting Cody into it? I mean, so where would you like to see this basically be resolved?
Rumble, the problem with Rumble is, let's say they do it at Rumble, Cody wins. What do you do with Orton after? Orton's kind of like in this no man's land. WrestleMania makes more sense because, one, Randy Orton hasn't had a big one-on-one.
Could you put him with Cena?
Cena, the other option there, but
I mean, the history. I mean, right? One more time, think about the history that Cena and Orton has. I mean, we think about John Cena's career. I mean, of anybody left, right? I mean, his biggest opponent would be Adam Copeland, but he's not there. Would be Randy Orton. So, I mean, Randy and John, basically, we think about the last decade. I mean, so you could maybe have it where you have this match at Rumble. If you're not sure about where you want to go with Randy, you could definitely do that, I think, at Mania, right?
Yeah, Mania, unless they have other plans for Cena, because they've talked about giving Cena that final set with the World Heavyweight Championship, giving him that.
Well, that means that wouldn't that we be going with Cody Rhodes, or we're going with Gunther and John Cena? So where would that be?
I don't know, Tom. Like I said, don't believe everything the internet says, but even Cena winning the belt doesn't it's like he's gonna have to give it up right away because we know we're not gonna see him long time. So I see this more being like a code, like Hogan, Austin and Rock one more time.
I think Randy and Cena should happen at WrestleMania one more time. I think if you're gonna get Cena for one more run, I mean Randy Orton. I don't know how long Randy Orton has in terms of wrestling on a, I guess, semi-regular schedule. I mean, I think to me, it just makes most sense. If you want to give John Cena the title after that, that's, a decision that WWE would have to make. But I think that, to me, the match that it's got to be is Randy Orton and John Cena at WrestleMania, right? Because we know that Cena, this is it. This is his last run. I mean, how many times did they even face off at WrestleMania?
They never had an official one-on-one match at WrestleMania, which is kind of interesting.
Well, that's even more of a reason why that I think you should do the match at WrestleMania. I think, to me, you don't want to leave the what if. I mean, I think, to me, you think about the last 20 years, right? The two biggest names statistically, I know Roman's probably surpassed Randy Orton, but in terms of the past 20 years, who were the two statistical, probably most main evented wrestlers or in main events would have to be John Cena and Randy Orton, right? Past 20
Absolutely.
years.
Yeah, so like I could see that does make a little sense. Cena coming out thing. I'm also the guy who kind of ran this place for 20 years. When you did it kind of one last time after Orton loses, but I want to have Orton on the high though if he is going to face Cena because it's the last match. Like we saw with Rock and Austin when they did in 2003. Rock came off that big win with Hogan before facing Austin. So you want to have that momentum for Orton as well.
I would also, again, now I know that Cena and Orton have faced off many times, but I would even add that we never got Hogan and Flair in WWF. I mean, Flair was in WWF the 1 year, and we didn't really get, I mean, they wrestled theoretically in different hokey matches, but we never got that moment at a WrestleMania one-on-one. So, I mean, if you have the opportunity one more time, maybe you should make it John Cena, Randy Orton one more time.
Especially with the two nights. You got to sell tickets for both nights. So
yeah,
it's perfect. It makes the perfect sense.
All right. Well, you know what? Let me get to the chat here. A lot of people want to talk. Let me get to them here. And let's say hello to people. Zilla's in the house. How you doing, Zilla? Want to say hello to one of my friends here from Wrestling Zero. And we'll have some Wrestling Zero coverage here coming up Monday night, which will be Tuesday afternoon. Your time, good sir, is Mr. Yoshimatsu Matsuda is going to be here. We'll have a couple of announcements for Wrestling Zero in the great country of Australia. It is good to see you, my friend, and glad you're doing well. Glad Zero is doing well. I watched the Stampede show, and that was definitely one that we're going to talk a lot about what happened with the supposed to have been the Shogun and Jay Ryan and what happened with Matsuda at the end of the show and Richman, everything else. We're going to definitely talk about that, plus what's going on with Ace Reed. Zilla wants to throw two names out there, Zilla Fatu or Brock Lesnar.
Brock, no. He ain't coming.
No chance.
It's a straight up, no. He's not coming back.
Roman Reigns.
There's no point of it. Now, in Canada, I can tell you that much, but bringing Lesnar back, especially with
he lives in Canada. He lives in what?
With the McMahon, with Vince McMahon lawsuit, even though Trump is the president, I don't think TKO want the black publicity, especially heading into their TKO heading into the biggest run of the year. We saw last year in January how much damage control they had to do. I don't think they want to repeat. So Brock Lesnar, I don't think coming back anytime soon. Zilla Fatu is interesting, but I don't think you bring him in, no one's going to know really who he is. Like not nobody, but the average
fan have
wouldn't know.
Into the storyline.
He has history, but let's say the fifth member, he comes out. I would say half that crowd in Vancouver is going to be like,
but I think in terms of with the original bloodline, I mean, Lesnar's a name that it's got history.
It could be Rikishi. No, I'm just kidding. No.
And also Lesnar was with Heyman. You mentioned that. I mean, I'm not saying that it should be Brock Lesnar. I don't think it should be Brock Lesnar for reasons rather to the storyline. I don't know what the in-ring, outside the ring situation is with Brock Lesnar. I'm going to let that play out.
But I don't think Brock would do a War Games. Like Brock has. You look at Brock's career in WWE, and other than when he came back in 2011, he's done the matches where it makes the most sense for him to be in a War Game with 5 other people.
do you think we will see Brock Lesnar in a WWE ring again?
Not anytime soon.
Okay.
Not anytime
Okay.
soon.
No. Listen, I would like to ask. Also, he thinks it could be Zilla or Cody Rhodes. Yeah, well, you could be, but I think we just answered.
Cody might be. We could see Cody because Cody has had some history, but then again, what did that do with Kevin Owens? So
I was under the impression tonight. I know we still got 2 more SmackDowns ahead. It seems to be building to a Kevin Owens Cody Rhodes match again.
It is, but the rumors are supposed to be in your neck of the neighborhood, Tom. That Saturday main event,
September 14th. Yeah.
So
14th.
That what the rumors are, which I think makes sense. At prime time, these two right now are kind of a really interesting. Keep it.
So then that would say Cody could be that man.
I would have because he's still Cody is advertising. He's still a draw. Like as much as people.
Well, he's the champion. Of course, he's a draw. He's got plenty of history with the bloodline. I mean, if Roman's desperate times call for desperate measures.
And Cody,
I don't think it's Cena. I don't think it's John Cena. I just think to me, it's not John Cena. You're convincing me more and more it's not The Rock.
The Rock. The only reason I say John Cena is because Vancouver, they do a lot of movies and stuff. So John Cena could be filming a movie, just make a surprise appearance.
Yeah, I did see Vancouver's a lot of movies. Why is that, by the way?
Just a nice place and only good part in Canada.
There's some other good places in Canada. I mean, you know.
In Toronto, they think they're a good place, but we know the Leafs suck. So
well, that's true too. But Winnipeg seems to be feeling pretty good these days.
The Jets are doing good, but yeah, the Cena is an interesting one, but I think if he wants, unless they're deciding to come back to Vancouver later next year, then Cena might return there. But I think that might be one spot Cena might just want to kick off.
All right. Well, you know what? That's a good point. We want to say hello to TBK. Yep, we'll definitely see him in the next few weeks. Yep, we say hello. Loving the Bronson Reed and the new bloodline. Yes. I want to say hello to our friends over in Roseburg, Oregon, which is not too far away from Vancouver. Mr. RTG, of course. He is the general manager of course, our friends in BTW. He's going to be here coming up next Monday, not this Monday, but the following Monday, and he's going to have a lot to say going into November to remember the last show of the season for our friends in BTW. I think Paul Heyman is coming back to WWE with The Rock as a new client.
I think that the indication why. Listen, how much Heyman has done for Roman in the last few years. And we saw him after the break, after what Solo was doing the bloodline, Heyman looked like he was going to cry half the time. So I think if Heyman disconnects the number, he found someone else.
And that would be The Rock. And my man Barry Gutman's here. Barry, how you doing, Barry? Hope you're feeling well, Barry. You'd like to say hello, you're welcome to, Barry. Barry, do you want to come on the stream? Barry, where were you yesterday on the YouTube channel? Not this channel, his own channel. I like to see Cena versus Randy at WrestleMania. There you go. Let's get to what TBK like to say. Roman Reigns and The Rock absolutely still needs to happen. Orton and Rhodes is definitely Mania worthy, but with Cena in the mix, Randy and Cena could very well happen at Mania, which we were talking about. Randy should definitely retire Cena, especially after the thing said on Cody's podcast. Randy has a lot of respect for Cena. It just makes sense. That could happen, but if it happens at Mania, Cena is going to keep going past Mania.
Cena has a full year. We're looking at December, so
maybe they could wrestle again one more time. I don't know.
I could see it, especially now with to see how the Saturday night main event returns are going to work. So maybe that might be the last spot for Cena's career.
Okay. Yes, we definitely bow down to Mr. Matsuda, and he's got a lot to say Monday night. Definitely want to tune into that one. Hello to Barry, if Barry's still out there. Okay, so we spoke about some of that. Definitely we'll have to see about that. What did you think about the whole tag team situation with the Motor City Machine Guns, the Street Profits, and Gargano and Ciampa real quick?
Couple of things. I hope we're getting the old Ciampa we saw in NXT, the guy who was hated, who when he came out with no music.
A little bit of that tonight. A little bit of that.
So I think this is the right move for Ciampa because the DIY experiment it's not having success it did back in 2016, which is a long time ago. I think they can utilize Gargano and Ciampa maybe a little bit better single, and Ciampa being a villainous heel, I think might be something really good. The Street Profits are very interesting because they were on X tweeting about their displeasure, how things are not working out. The reports are these things rumors? Are they planning to leave? Is this part of the story? You, Tom, we talked about last week. I think it is part of a story. The fix is in because I don't think the Street Profits are going to leave, but AEW Tag Team Division is a little weak, so they would get the opportunity there. But I think for the next little while, this is part of a story. We might see a heel turn the Street Profits, which I think is about time, and we'll see how that work or a split. Where
they're kind of in the middle right now, in that middle territory right now, that purgatory almost.
Because the one thing with the Profits is Montez Ford, we all know, is married to Bianca Belair, and WWE had Bianca high up. So I think there's more of a push to keep Montez over Angela Dawkins. So it's very interesting to see, will they split them eventually?
Well, Montez, what did we see at Elimination Chamber? Was it last year, Elimination Chamber?
2023.
We saw it where what he did in the chamber, but they never really capitalized on that moment. So you don't know what you have in him. But if it's storyline based, maybe they're working an angle to get themselves to win the tag titles. That would sort of make sense. Okay. Motor City Machine Guns have them. They've had them for a few weeks. And I guess we'll see how that develops. The women's title situation. Also, the U.S. title. We didn't speak about that. What's your thoughts on now a United States title introduced in the women's division, and also what we saw between Nia Jax and Naomi tonight?
The United States women's title, I think it's about time with another singles women's title. NXT, we saw they tested out earlier. I think, listen, 5-6 years ago, you told me about this, I would have said, sure, but it wouldn't have worked out. We saw with the tag team titles. Now the division is much deeper. The talent is much stronger. We see, look at Candice LeRae, how she's kind of now making her way. Chelsea Green has done a lot of great work. Michin. You look at Raw. Liv had the women's, but you have Raquel Rodriguez, Io Sky, Kairi Sane. Asuka's going to return soon. Charlotte Flair is going to return soon.
We spoke about, and a name we spoke about last week that apparently is coming back when WWE goes to Netflix, and Becky Lynch.
Becky Lynch is returning. You have young talent in NXT coming up, possibly, and Roxanne Perez. You got Lyra Valkyrie. So you need to get Tiffany Stratton right now Money in the Bank, but you need to give everyone more of an opportunity, and I think this will really give everyone more of a chance for the ladies, which I think
now we have a lot of women, and they've shown that the ability that they have in the ring are in many cases just as good as the men. It adds some storylines. It gives some people like Bayley an opportunity, let's say, to hang around in main events after losing the title. You give other people an opportunity to keep brands fresh. So that was good. I think I kind of expected the title situation with Nia Jax to continue it off SmackDown. I want to get to my man Robert here. I think Io Sky or Dakota Kai should win the U.S. title.
Dakota Kai would be an interesting one, but because she's been around for a while.
Because obviously, our friends in wrestling are all Aussies, fellow Aussies.
Exactly, but she's been around for a while. She's done a lot of great work, and I think she deserves a single push. But her just returning, you need to give some time. Io Sky, I could see her winning it. The question, are they going to bring a Raw, like they were talking about, an Intercontinental Women's Championship put on Raw as well?
What do you think of that? Would you like to see that, or what's your thoughts?
I think if you do it for one brand, you got to do it for both, because I don't think they're going to be on both brands. Like we've seen with the tag team title, they're doing that, but I think they kind of stay on one brand for a bit, then go to another, unless a lot is happening. But I think then if you have two, then more women, they're getting the opportunity. We saw with the 3-hour Raw how that would really help. The rumor of a 3-hour Raw and a 3-hour SmackDown when they go to Netflix, and USA doing a 3-hour SmackDown is going to be interesting.
You like 3-hour SmackDown?
I will see, Tom. SmackDown, they're starting to pick it up again, but
I was into tonight's show. I got to say, I was into it. I haven't watched a lot of it.
It took them a while to get things rolling after WrestleMania. They finally get things rolling.
I'll tell you, there was things I liked. I liked how they showed like the snapshots of people coming into the arena. I liked the stats they were showing. I liked the sort of the headlines of tonight's show. So I definitely see sort of new influence. Maybe it's the TKO influence. Maybe it's just the new, obviously being on a new network. But it did feel like tonight there was just things maybe I hadn't noticed in a while.
Tonight was probably better. Like, I think we go back to we talked with Alan Michaels and TBK August, September. We felt even July, we just felt bland. Like it was just average. This was probably the first one. It felt like what we
Also,
felt
maybe
last year.
getting closer to Survivor Series. Also, we know with Survivor Series, that means you're going into basically your playoffs, right? You're going into Survivor Series. You got Rumble 2 months later. You got the Chamber. You're going to do another show overseas, and you got Mania. So really now, it's almost like now is the stretch time for WWE. It's almost like now you're getting into the middle toward the last quarter of the season almost. Think of it like in the NHL when you get into January and February. Okay, now every game means something. So, maybe that's a good point. Also, Zilla says she doesn't like the women's championship. She's a woman. She doesn't like the United States women's championship. She doesn't like it.
I don't know, Zilla. I think they deserve the women. There's so much talent with the women now. They deserve this opportunity to get
I think that they should definitely get it. They should have more championship opportunities. I think a lot of them.
I'm not talking about. Sorry, Tom. I'm not talking about Tony Khan, where everyone gets the championship. But I feel like there should be those opportunities available.
Well, you want me to bring it up before we move on? AEW, what did you think? I did watch some of Dynamite tonight on Wednesday. I mean, what did you think of Dynamite? How about that?
I think they have Full Gears next Saturday. The show is like, the one thing I didn't understand is Adam Cole. They've been building this Adam Cole MJF. They thought we're going to do it now. They throw a curveball, and
you see that DDP wouldn't allow MJF to use the diamond cutter?
Yeah, that rumor came out, which was kind of interesting. You have the whole Swerve Bobby Lashley thing, which I think is disastrous because
I was thinking about you when I was watching that on Wednesday.
You built Swerve up so much, and you let him lose to Daniel Bryanson. Then you let him lose to Hangman. Now he's going to lose another big match to put over a new guy who just coming into the company getting handed the car.
Because you had somebody that you put a lot of weight in, and that was also probably one of your most beloved figures, and now you're just using them as enhancement talents, basically.
But you kill them after all that work you've done.
Sure. Listen, I mean, and I'm sure Bobby Lashley 6 months from now will say the same thing about him that everybody else that's been in AEW that comes from WWE. I mean, it's just, I'm watching the Hurt Syndicate, and I'm watching, what they are in the Syndicate, is I should say, really, rather than the Hurt Syndicate. But the Syndicate, you're just watching them, but they weren't in their peak in a few years, and yet now it's almost like it's 2020 all over again. But, I don't know.
It's like Tom with DIY. It's like DIY what WWE did. They tried to bring them back, get that magic they had in 2016. It wasn't there. And, they tried. Okay, moving on. But I feel like AEW, it's the same thing. Like, they're trying something completely old that they think that's going to work, and it's not.
No, well, that's why the ratings are where they are. And Zilla also wants to point out that she just thinks that there's too many championships in WWE. Well, you got a big roster. I mean, what do you have? You have the Intercontinental, you have the U.S., you have the tag titles, you have the world titles. I mean, what else do you want though? I mean, would you want to take away a championship? Do you want titles to be taken away, Zella? Would you like less championships? Do you want it to just be the world title and the tag titles, or I don't know? But
Zilla, like I honestly think that WWE, they have the right amount of titles. If you look at AEW, like what you have, the TNT, you have the International, you have like the Continental, you have so many, the FTR, like there's so many other titles.
There's one thought in wrestling, we talk about this all the time on Sportswire. Some wrestlers say, it's the championship that makes the man, or it's the championships don't mean as much. But I mean, it is WWE, it is AEW, and it can mean something to someone's career to win gold and to have it. I mean, we've seen Gunther, what he did with the Intercontinental title. I mean, we've seen obviously Roman and what the Usos did with the tag and the world titles respectively. LA Knight wins his first championship on the main roster. We've seen what that's done. So, I mean, it's what it is, more or less. I mean, it's just, what it is.
I think it's a mix. I think that the holder and the title got to go together to make it right. I'll give a perfect example. Examples we saw last year in AEW. At the end, Eddie Kingston won the Continental, right? It was just kind of like, okay, he had this big win, and just really nothing really happened with that. It's okay, he's in the same spot. Even I'll give WWE, when Seth Rollins beat Brock Lesnar in 2019, Seth got that big win, but it was just like, like what kind of, he got that big win, there's nothing next. You look at a guy like, I'm gonna say Gunther, where he won the IC title, kind of irrelevant, and then his work pulled up that title. I'll even give Cody Rhodes with the IC title in 2011. Like,
well, I would even say, how about you mentioned 2019? Kofi Kingston wins the world championship, and his world title run was just, it ended with a thud. I mean, remember what Brock Lesnar did to him? Squashed him, basically. I mean, so winning a championship, it can go both ways.
Exactly. Like, it's just not you getting that big moment. It's what you do after the point you lose the title.
How about Christian's 2 runs as world champion in WWE? They weren't much runs,
compared to his runs in Impact, like when he won the belt, like how big it was, and even the second time, the heel, and how he lost the title, and the King of the Mountain, and him going off saying, "I never lost my championship," but that was with his persona as well. You look at guys like Kurt Angle, who's won championships, and how important they were, how much.
Kurt Angle's career. I mean, Kurt Angle right off the bat, came in and was a double champion. I mean, you talk about like 4 months into his career, he was basically like, that's just one of those situations. Brock Lesnar, right? Brock Lesnar wins the world title off The Rock. What was it? 4 months into his career in the main roster. 4 months. And that shot him up like a rocket.
I'll throw Ethan Page. Look what his character did with winning the NXT title in a few weeks. It just worked out magically, and it made, in his work with Joe Henry, made Joe Henry a star we're all wanting to see succeed.
Zilla wants less championships in WWE.
I don't think it's going to happen, Zilla. I think there's enough right now.
The days of when you had the Intercontinental, the tag, and the world title, those days are long gone. You're going to get championships, and you're going to have the 24/7 title round.
No, don't bring that back, Tom. Then we're going to too much.
If Netflix wants it, they might do it. Who knows? I mean, we had our friends on in England. We had British Pro Wrestling is back on Sportswire. We had them, and they have a 24/7 OK championship. It was basically the same thing, and the champion there was Hybrid, who was calling himself the 25/8 champion because he was defending it. He defended against 7 guys in one shot. So, well, it was a gauntlet match. It was a typical gauntlet match. And that's that. Okay, all right. So, all right. Anything else you want to talk about in the wrestling world before I transition to these guys here in about 5 or 10 minutes?
I want to talk about Gunther.
Okay.
On Raw. We've never seen this side a humbled, scared.
Talk about the segment we saw with Damian Priest on Raw.
We've seen him, like, even look at the time in NXT UK, like even going to NXT and then to SmackDown, we've never seen a nervous, scared Gunther where he's questioning himself.
Well, he's also facing someone that's his size. He's facing someone that wants his championship back.
But we saw at SummerSlam, Gunther, it was a different Gunther. Gunther was on a high, like he didn't scare Damian Priest. Now after losing to Cody Rhodes,
I would add to that though that he's got the championship now. Before he was riding himself into that. Now for the first time, he's got to figure out how to defend that title, how to keep that title, and I think that's maybe why there's that adjustment, and also it's again somebody that has him marked that wants his championship back. Damian Priest has talked about that for weeks.
The other one thing I want to question, are we going to see a Kaiser turn on Gunther? Now, I tweeted this out. This will not work because I don't see either of these two going faces. Gunther as a face is just thinking of it would just be awful. I think they got to keep these two together for still a while before they...
Would Kaiser be the one turning face because Gunther will just... be upset with him and interfering and also screwing up.
I don't think neither of these two are the face because what we've seen, like you've seen.
Well, we're about to get a New Day split.
Yeah, this is about time because they've been trending 5-6 months, but like
we're about to get that. I mean, we're going to find out. I mean, I would imagine, right? It's Xavier Woods that's going to be the one turning, right? Or am I missing something?
Xavier Woods turning, which he deserves this push, like no doubt about it. I'm excited to see what he does.
Is it too little, too late in his career?
It's a little too late, but maybe just picking up the IC belt and just having a short run with it, I think.
Could he get that at this stage in his career?
We'll see. But you look at some of the major breakups. Like you look at Miz. Like I did a silly example: Miz and Morrison when they broke up. Miz turned turned heel.
Morrison's career went pretty south quickly right afterwards, if I recall correctly.
Morrison, I think, more booking decision because he was always around that world title. They never just pulled the trigger.
He left WWE, I think, at some point after that. If I
2 years after, I think.
Yeah, 2 years. It wasn't there long term.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like another example of a heel, like the Rockers, like we saw with Shawn Michaels. And I know this is an old one, but it's like,
well, that's a huge. Well, I mean, if you want to go that road, I mean, Neidhart and Bret. I mean, yeah. Jim Neidhart's career was a tenth of what Bret Hart's was. I mean, Marty Jannetty.
Exactly.
Marty Jannetty unfortunately had drugs and other issues. So yeah, that's one. I think those two names come to mind as like, really goofs on terms of just where their careers were.
The only one like I can think of recently where they split and both characters kind of succeeded, NXT with Ciampa and Gargano, but Ciampa was off TV. It took Gargano to take some time to actually get them traction.
Yeah.
But these splits, they don't work the way everyone thinks they are. Like, so I think at this time it's like keep them together.
I'll even say,
or even put them in a draft. That's the only way I can see
Randy's Instagram page. Give him a follow, Randy Dillon, DHILLON. We're going to be joined by the regular guys here in about 5 minutes, so we're going to transition to some American football talk here. But that's Randy's Instagram page. Do give him a follow. I mean, listen, there's even a case of the Dudleys in WWE. Remember, they were split up as a tag team, and that did not work at all. And now Bully eventually in Impact got it right, and he did win the world title there. But
they had to do a completely different angle on that. It wasn't like these two were split. Like, it was just something else. Like, even Impact, like Bobby Beer Money. Look at the split between those two.
I mean,
James Storm's career was never the same after Bobby Roode's
career was not at all the same. Yeah, that was just not at all the same. And I even think about was it Chris Harris and James Storm?
Yeah, Chris Harris and James
Storm. Harris's career was like, oh my God, what a absolute disaster his career was. I don't think he did much at all afterwards. Let me get to some comments. Joe Hendry needs to win a world championship, not to have him lose it all the time.
I'm saying, Robert, he deserves it. Like, at this point,
he's got to get a world title. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Good point. I'm happy WWE got rid of the 24/7 title. Are we seeing a babyface Gunther? I don't know. I don't think so.
Like Randy Orton, when he turned, like, we won the world title, then when Evolution turned, I saw a little bit of a face, but he was better off as a heel.
Yeah,
so, there are some people better off, but like can do it. Like, even I'll give Stone Cold, like, him turning with Vince after WrestleMania 17. That was like the worst decision he could have done. The Rock, the Rock can do both. Triple H shown he can do both. Shawn Michaels shown he can do both. Same with Hogan, but some are better at staying at one or the other.
I think Sting's an example of somebody that really, when they turned him heel, I know he kind of did okay in TNA, but people loved
Wolfpack WCW. How was that? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think there's certain wrestlers. Rey Mysterio can't turn. I think, John Cena's another one that I think that even though, yes, he was heel early in his career, but and you really think of Cena, Super Cena, you can't do it. I mean, there are just a lot of guys. I mean, I guess Bret sort of did it. I mean, Canada, but I mean, there are certain wrestlers that I think that they can and cannot do it. I want to say hello to Liz of WCE. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in here. And thank you to that. And also, before I eventually get to the guys here, I know Alan's waiting. What do you think of the Wyatt Six and the Final Testament on Monday Night Raw?
It's fun. This is fun to watch because 2 points. We're finally seeing what we've been wanting to see from Karrion Kross for so long. Like, his mic skills over the last little while, his promo skills has really impressed, and why there was such a big deal about him.
Yep.
The Miz taking out Uncle Howdy, making him kind of vulnerable, and them beating up, showing a different side. Like, this is going to be great when this match finally hits the float. When this thing goes full on, like, maybe this should be the War Games match for crying out loud.
I got a wild one here before I go back to Liz. I'd like to see a Nexus reunion. That's way back in the time machine. A Nexus.
Well, so we have to. Wade Barrett has to get off commentary. Someone got to find Heath Slater.
We got Cena, right? Cena, right? Who's going to come back, right? Technically, right?
No,
We got that.
I'm trying to think of the 7 original Nexus members. We have Michael Tarver, we haven't seen since 2010. Heath Slater, kids. We got
Brian Danielson, right?
David Otunga. What is he doing?
David Otunga, I feel like was on like talk shows, like doing law stuff.
And then how do you bring Ryback in the frame? That's my question.
Well, Ryback, I think that's for legal.
That's why it will never happen.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, Heath Slater, I think, is still was an Impact, right? Is an Impact still. So
I don't think he's actively, but he was on Impact a while ago.
So Heath Slater, I guess you could reinstate. I guess you could. I mean, Barrett.
David Otunga, you could bring in a segment. Someone needs a lawyer, and he could play the part. Wade Barrett, I just don't see coming. I think Wade Barrett, he's good on commentary. I don't think he needs to come back in the ring.
Okay, let me get to a few more comments. I know Alan's going to kill me, but we're going to go through them anyway. How do we see Zilla Fatu coming in as the 5th member for Roman or Brock Lesnar?
No. Zilla Fatu, I think we talked about Zilla Fatu. The crowd in Vancouver is not going to know who he is. If he does make that surprise 5th, it's going to be like a kind of like, who is this guy? And Brock right now, unless Donald Trump's willing to drop the whole lawsuit for the thing
I don't think he could do that though.
I don't think so either. He's not until
January 20th, and he couldn't. I'm pretty sure of this. He couldn't pardon something that's not been finalized. The case is not finalized. You can't pardon something. You can't. There's no verdict. You can't do anything with that yet. That would have to take months from now. I don't think
it's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, so that's a different show for a different time. We would think. Oh, do you see Wyatt 6 in Final Testament for War Games?
They should be in War Games. I think they deserve to be. They could really put a great War Game match. And unfortunately, the bill's not there. But you put all of them in the War Games, I think it would be something terrific. But I don't think it's going to happen.
I think it'd be better with a Nexus and a new Nexus together. But who's the new Nexus? I haven't heard it. I've been doing this 6 years.
There was a new Nexus group in 2011. It was CM Punk, David Otunga, Curtis Axel.
And then was Justin Gabriel in that?
Justin Gabriel, Mason Ryan.
I haven't heard Mason Ryan's name in God knows how long. Justin Gabriel, is he still like?
He was in Impact, I think, 2017, 16.
That's a while ago. I mean, those names are just way back in the time machine. We're talking about the ECW episode on NXT that we're talking about a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was great. I mean, I guess maybe we'll see more of that. That kind of makes sense. And TBK's got a good line that, Karrion Kross maybe, just maybe, he could get over the hump. He finally feels like he's got something going for him. That's a great. So you know what? I'm going to let you have a few final words. I'm going to bring Alan onto the stage because Alan's ready to talk some football with us.
Alan, is the back door locked? That's my first question for you.
Well, Alan, he definitely wants to make sure his doors are locked these days, period. But are you outside, Alan? Are you outside?
No, I'm not. I'm down in my room.
You look like you're outside somewhere. It's like Blair Witch Project, Alan Michaels version. I mean, hope not.
Okay, Tom, I will make this quick. Just a couple of notes with WWE. CM Punk, when he's going to be coming back on TV with Drew McIntyre, the speculation there. The women's War Games match, there was talks about how it's kind of just a mismatch. And I do agree and disagree because we had the whole Liv and Nia battling out a crown jewel, and what we saw on SmackDown, they're going to kind of be
that at the end of the show. Yep,
buddies, which it doesn't make sense. But I think it's still going to be a good match. There was arguments saying War Game they should get rid of it to make an annual thing. I disagree because they have to do 2 rings with seating capacity. You got to make sure you get the figuring out to make sure you have enough room there. So, and the final thing with wrestling, I'm going to talk with
in Vancouver. We're looking at 15. Are we looking at over 15?
There's over 15,000. The goal is 17,000, over 17,000. So as much as a Canuck game is supposed to be there.
Wow! And I just watched the Canucks play the New York Islanders.
Yeah, they got their butt spanked, so I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to bring up the Oilers and the Capitals to you right now, but the Islanders seem like they're going to again be the usual Islanders. They actually played pretty well the last 2 games.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, and then I'll just end this note on AEW. It's just like is Shane McMahon coming now? Things have been quiet on that front, and the Young Bucks now have taken some time off. There was speculation, and it just feels like things are just getting washed down. Jack Perry had become pretty much a blogging. The women's division is there's so much they can do. And then quick note on the hockey fan chat, I'm going to reach out to my friend who's a Penguins fan. I talked to him last year. Nick,
we were talking about that in our group chat about the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Because, listen, they are going down a sinking toilet, and what the heck? So this is a good time to talk about them.
You know what? They've hung on for so long to try to keep that team intact, and they've missed the playoffs now the last couple of years, and you haven't done anything deep in the postseason now in what, 6 years, 7 years?
Haven't made the playoffs in 2 years as well. They brought in Erik Karlsson.
You haven't had a deep run since what, 2018 in the playoffs? Right, 2018.
Yeah, they haven't won a round since 2018. They've been out the first round. They bring in Erik Karlsson, and listen, like, as much as people rave about Karlsson defense, from what I've heard and read the rumor, the Penguins organization, they're almost at their limits. They're willing to buy him out.
They got that franchise there's no draft picks. There's no anything. You've basically tried every year to win. And like you said, they haven't even since back-to-back Stanley Cups, they haven't won a playoff round. I mean, the Islanders swept them in 19. I think they got bounced out early in the playoffs in the bubble, and they just haven't gone anywhere. So time is up.
The only thing I'm interested in was Crosby's extension. Do they give Crosby some more time to try to maybe do a retool like what Washington did and Boston did, with Washington doing and what Boston did a few years ago? Or do they?
I just don't think that they're going to move.
Going to be interesting on that episode, but I'm hoping to get that out here within a few weeks.
I definitely want to hear that. Let me get to two more things here before we go and switch to football. I did hear about Wade Barrett coming out of retirement, but we don't know if that's going to come out of retirement. Maybe Alan Michaels will wrestle Drew McIntyre instead.
He's pretty much said he's happy. I think at this point he's comfortable doing commentary. He's making more of a name of himself on commentary.
And he's done some acting too, right? He's done some acting.
Yeah, I think right now he's like, for him to go in the ring, it just doesn't make sense. Maybe I could see him like get an altercation.
I think Nick Aldis has a better shot to be in the ring.
I think Adam Pearce has a better chance if he's healthy.
Well, but Nick Aldis, there was mentions of his wrestling career, so that made me think that you could at least see a match or two out of him. We love the Nexus too. Randy, good stuff, my man. Before we let you go, I want to one more time plug your Instagram, because I definitely want to make sure everybody gets a chance that's here. Go follow Randy on Instagram, because I know Zilla doesn't use X. He is the host of the Hockey Fan Chat. That will return very soon. He will also be on site at Survivor Series 2 weeks from now. We'll have a lot to talk about that on next week's show. Randy, good stuff, my man. My condolences on the Capitals, but I'm sure the Islanders will be back.
We're winning right now, 4-2, Tom. We're doing good.
All right. So you know what? This year everybody's got a chance in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. So have fear. And Randy, thank you as always. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next Friday. And yes, bye, Randy. Have a good day. That was Randy Dillon, host of the Hockey Fan Chat, and I'm joined here with the host of the Liftoff Jets and the NYMLB Talk. His name is Chris Bazaya. Chris has obviously been covering the NFL and Major League Baseball for us. He was once upon a time the host of the Baseball Banter. Now he's just an analyst for us. His name is Justin Ginelli. And the man that, Alan Michaels, I didn't know you were alive. I didn't know you were existing. It's the first time I've seen you in weeks. And I know that you've been a busy man. You've been working on your YouTube channel. You've been working on playing NCAA College Football 25. And, I mean, how you feeling right now, Alan? I mean, my guess I'm going to be talking a lot about the Green Bay Packers with you right now. I mean, how you feeling right now, Alan? It's been a while.
I'm feeling kind of rejuvenated. I took pretty much like a month off, and pretty much.
Is it because your Packers are playing the Bears this weekend? Is that why you feel rejuvenated?
Hey, it's always a good week when we play a division rival. It's not the Detroit Lions.
Well, you know what? A lot of people don't want to play the Detroit Lions. I can't believe the Detroit Lions have their best record since like Dwight Eisenhower was president.
Yeah.
No,
they did pretty good last year too. I mean, they went like 14.
But I don't think they had the. And by the way, thank you, Robert. I'll see you soon. I'll see you Monday for Mr. Matsuda's show. But I mean, listen. I mean, the Detroit Lions were good last year, but I don't think they started this year the the way they did last year. This year, their start this year is better than last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, 100%. But I mean, honestly, this Lions team, the offense just looks unstoppable, and the defense is pretty tough as well. But that offense, I mean, they're doing whatever they want to out there. I mean,
Well,
it's
I
honestly
hate to bring up because we are technically with New York guys here. I mean, if you put the Jets and Giants together, I don't think they would still equal the Detroit Lions.
No,
probably not.
definitely not. Not even close. Sadly.
Watching a Jets game gives a Packer fan immense pleasure.
You must feel good I know it's been an interesting time for you away from this platform these last several weeks, but there's one thing you must be taking solace in the fact that Aaron Rodgers leaves the Green Bay Packers and, well, look at what he's left. And you've got Jordan Love and, you've obviously feeling like you're going to be in the playoffs these last year and this year. You won a playoff game last year and you certainly contributed to the Dallas Cowboys decline. Mike McCarthy there is obviously in a world of trouble. I don't know how he still even has a job. And Aaron Rodgers probably won't have a job with the New York Jets after this season. You got to be feeling at least pretty good with that, Alan. You got a lot of solace in that.
I feel really good about it. The Aaron thing, it was Aaron's time to go. I was actually very excited for the Jordan Love era. Devontae Adams is the one that it still gives me joy to this day. Seeing him struggle everywhere he goes.
You haven't had much to enjoy lately, but
he wanted to sit there and cry his way out of Green Bay to go to the Raiders, in which he did nothing there. And then he cried his way off the Raiders, went to the Jets. I mean, they could get, a little run, a little string of games, but I think the Bills have already pretty much locked up that division. And,
I think the Bills are up 4.5 games, right? 4.5 games on Miami.
Yeah, I mean,
they beat Miami already.
But I'm glad that Aaron decided it was time for him to go because. We made the right decision, which the past 2 times we've let a quarterback go. It's been the right decision. The next man up.
Next man up, and we'll see if Jordan Love can have the success as Brett Favre and
Malik Willis. I mean, we can't count out Malik Willis here. I mean, that guy.
Well, I want to come back to that, but I guess, I'll talk about a few of the games. I got a little bit of time with everybody. So I guess since I really haven't talked a lot of football this year because we've had baseball has been on and the Yankees were in the World Series. The Mets were in the National League Championship Series. So there really hasn't been a focus much on the NFL this year. But if you guys were to say just now that we're basically just entering in the halfway point of the NFL season so far, what has been some of the biggest storylines for you guys all so far?
I think it's got to be how good Detroit is. I mean, they got to be the best team in the NFC. I mean, San Francisco obviously has had a ton of injuries. They've kind of stumbled.
McCaffrey's been out for most of the first half of the season.
Yeah, McCaffrey just made his debut and still didn't even. He still looked very, very rusty. They've kind of stumbled their way to 5-4. But
in a weak division, so they kind of benefit from that. They're in a weak division.
Detroit 8-1 in a very good NFC North because Minnesota's been one of the bigger surprises with Sam Darnold at quarterback.
And I would say up until recently, Washington was a surprise. Up until the last 2 weeks.
They still are at 7-4, and I think he's got Jaden Daniels to be one of the biggest stories of the NFL this year, lighting the league up as a rookie. Last 2 games they've struggled a little bit, but. I still think Washington's in great position in the NFC to be, one of the playoff teams. And honestly, it's really been between Detroit and Minnesota as 2 of the most consistent teams in the NFC.
And what about those Kansas City Chiefs? They find ways to win. What about them?
They're still undefeated.
Yeah. 9-0.
Do you guys think the Kansas City Chiefs will remain undefeated for the rest of the season?
No,
they got to lose a couple of games. No. They have to.
They might. I mean, they're a couple mistakes away from losing 3 games back to back to back.
Well, shouldn't they have lost last week, right? I mean, basically there was.
Here's my thing. It's they find a way to win, but I honestly feel like teams like that where it's not a definitive win after win after win. I mean, yeah, they're undefeated, but they're not the best team in the NFL. like the Lions are better than them, even with the one loss they have.
Well, that's like the
No,
Vikings
the
a
Chiefs are
couple of years
better.
ago, right? Vikings win 13 games a few years ago, and they get bounced out by the Giants in the first round. Vikings had a great season, but they did nothing in the playoffs. Got bounced in the first round. I mean, Kansas City's won.
Vikings too are starting to come down a little bit after their hot start. I don't think Sam Darnold is going to be, the way he was the first few weeks of the year, where everybody was like, "Oh, he might be," he's might possibly be an MVP candidate this year. He's starting to come down. So I think, in the NFC, it's Detroit and then everybody else. You could say Philly.
Yeah.
They've won 5-6 straight now.
Philly
Yeah,
got
they
off
look
to a
pretty
great
good,
start.
but-
Philly got off to a great start last year and came back to earth a little bit.
and now it's like the complete opposite. So,
I
think Green Bay. I think Jordan Love. Remember last year, Jordan Love didn't get going until the second half of the year.
Yep.
Second half of the season. So maybe he does that this year too with Green Bay. Sam Fran is getting healthy. With CMC, I think it's just a matter of time.
Well, I think San Francisco, right? They just need to get into the playoffs, right? That's the kind of team with their experience, being in a couple Super Bowls the last 5 years, being in a couple of other NFC championship games. They just need to win their division. They're probably a team that's comfortable winning a game or two on the road because they've been in this spot before, right? So for them, they don't have to have the glossy 15-2 season. They just need to get in the playoffs and get everybody healthy, and they can get on a run, right? That kind of what you think?
Yeah, I think so to a certain extent, but I don't love their defense either. I don't think their defense is, as good as any of these other teams. So between Detroit and Philly, maybe you throw in Green Bay, and then you look at the South. Maybe the Falcons can get hot towards the end of the season.
But then they lose to the Saints last week.
I know they've been inconsistent.
Atlanta still makes no sense.
I know it does. It doesn't.
Every year we talk about them going back to an individual that used to be on here that was brute-like, and we would talk about that they, always like the NFL purgatory. They were the definition of NFL purgatory. They go 7-10 or 8-9, but what do we know about the NFC South? You go 8-9 or 9-8, you win your division, right? That's a division guaranteed.
I could see 10-7 out of Atlanta though. I could see 10 wins.
But I think if you get to 9, you're going to win that division this year, though, right?
Probably. I mean, Tampa's really fallen apart since the injuries to Evans and Godwin.
Yeah.
They've come crashing back to earth. Mayfield's still playing relatively well, but
shout out Kate Otten. He carried me in fantasy.
Yeah, Kate Otten's
good going for you, Alan. I appreciate that. I'm happy you're doing well in fantasy, but
I'm not.
But who no one's talking about? The Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah,
Cardinals look good the last couple of weeks. Now, is that
in their division, right? Who would have thought that?
Could Arizona make the playoffs this year?
Yeah, I think so.
I can't see why not. Their defense has to be arguably one of the best defenses in the league.
Well,
that's 3 straight games they've gone without allowing a touchdown.
Let's go with the NFC first, then I'll go to the AFC because I'm sure that'll be where it gets interesting. But if you look at the NFC, right, you got Philly, right, is going to be in the playoffs, we think, right? Washington, can they hang on? There'd be a team in contention.
I think so.
And you got in the North, right, Detroit, pencil them in, right? And then you've got Minnesota and Green Bay, right, obviously fighting it out for one of those teams gets a spot, right? So that puts you down. Let's go 1, 2, 3 teams, right? You got the South, 1 team's going to make it, right? That puts you at 4. And then you got the NFC West, right? You could maybe get 2 spots. So maybe at a 7, maybe you could get San Francisco, Arizona. Maybe you can get in the South, Atlanta, right? Atlanta, I guess Tampa has a chance, but Atlanta's still favored. In the North, Detroit, right? But then you've got Minnesota and Green Bay. And then Washington would be the other team fighting for a spot. So that would be kind of where you
8 teams for 7 spots.
Pretty much. I mean,
to me, you're looking at Washington, Green Bay, and San Francisco fighting for the last 2 spots.
Yeah,
and maybe Minnesota.
Yeah, I feel like Minnesota and Green
comfortably make the playoffs this year.
I have to disagree a little bit.
Well, I'm going to I think I'm allowed to put the standings up. I think I'm allowed to share the screen. On the standings.
Yeah. I think Minnesota they beat us earlier in the year, but they've kind of been on a rough couple weeks. Darnold's been looking kind of a little bit rough. I think toward the second half of this season, we're going to pull them into deep waters, and I don't think they can swim.
So right now you got again Phillies 8-2. Chris's other team 8-2 after a win yesterday.
Let's
Lost-
look at Minnesota's schedule remaining.
They got a nice schedule, honestly.
All right, so
And
we
they-
got the Titans coming up. Okay, that is
That's dub. I mean, that's
I knew you were going to say that. You got
Let's see.
Chicago right now, which is in a tailspin. They were 4-2.
Yep.
They just fired one of their coaches. They're
they got
in
a tough defense though. I mean, I'm kind of nervous facing them this week. They have a pretty tough
Cardinals
defense.
game is a real interesting one coming
That's a
up
tough
here,
one.
right? That's Atlanta,
tough.
right?
Atlanta's tough
Maybe he
too.
plays
I mean,
well.
And that's Kirk Cousins' first game
Return.
back to Minnesota.
That's why I think he plays well there.
Yeah.
You got the Bears again, right? That's another match. That's a Monday night game, right? Is that Monday night?
Yep.
You got Seattle. Seattle's always tough in Seattle.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Green Bay, that's going to be a good
That's an
game.
L. I mean, that's all.
And then
That game might determine who gets into the playoffs.
Yeah,
And
honestly.
Really?
Lions and Vikings, that could determine seeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a schedule right there. You're looking at it. Maybe you could get 4 at least, right? 4 of these next 7 games, right? That would
Yeah.
give you 4.
Yeah, I can
You gotta
say-
beef. You gotta beef up. If you're the Vikings, beef up and win the next 4, and you're 11-2.
Did we lose you? There you go. Okay, I think we got you back. So I got 4 of the next 7, or maybe they could get 5.
I'd go
Depends.
4-3.
Yeah.
Okay. 4 and 3. Alan Michaels, the trendsetter. You want to be a trendsetter and go 6-1, 5 and 2.
No, I
You
think it's either 4-3 or 3-4. I mean, they could
But
possibly
3 and 4 would be enough to get into the playoffs, right?
I think
potentially.
11 wins should get them in.
Yeah.
I gotta see what the Packers schedule looks like too. To
I'll
really
give you the
gauge.
Packers. I'll give you the Packers. Give me 1 second. I'll give you the Packers 1 second.
So you might get 3 teams out of the North in the playoffs, right? The division winner. You might get Detroit,
Yeah.
Minnesota.
We were talking about that. Okay, so
Yeah.
Green Bay's got the Bears. We just spoke about.
Yep.
San Francisco, 4:25 Fox game of the
Ouch.
week.
In Green Bay. That's a good one.
Winnable. You got Miami Thursday night.
I think
Tua
we
will look good though. This
Together.
year. He's looked good the last 2 weeks. I think, if it's warm enough, if it's warm, he could play well. If it's 30, if it's 30 degrees or less on Thanksgiving,
Never know. It's on the road.
Yeah, you never know. The weather's been just interesting this year. Detroit, okay. Detroit, I would say
That's
right.
probably a loss.
That's a tough one.
Seattle.
That immediately smells. That immediately smells like 7-3 on Sunday by beating Chicago, falling right to 7-6. That immediately smells
I
like
think they
7-3.
could beat Miami. I think they could win
I
Miami.
think the Dolphins are starting to put it together though. They're healthy.
But it
again.
depends if it's cold. And we know that Miami does not play well in inclement weather.
I don't know. Miami's defense, I don't know. Green
You
Bay
got
should be able to-
Seattle. Seattle's a third. That's a Saturday night game, right? It's a Saturday
That's
night.
another
Yeah, I
tough
think,
game,
I
like you
think we
said.
beat Seattle.
New Orleans is a win. I think you're beating New Orleans.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Yep.
especially at home.
You got Minnesota
I think we beat
on
the
the road,
Vikings.
and you got Chicago.
You got to
know
win
that.
You got to win both both Bear games. You got to win the Dolphin game. Seattle, the Saints. So if you lose the Detroit game, and
I'm
let's
gonna
give them a loss
say-
to San Fran. You want to
I
give them
think
a loss?
I think
don't know.
Green Bay is going to get 4 of these next 7. I'm going to go 4 and 3.
Yeah, I like that.
But they have 8.
8. I'm sorry, 8. Okay, so you got to go 1. I'll go 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, 3-2. I'll go 5. I'm going to go 5 and 3.
Does
say
10 wins get you in now?
That's 11. Well, that would be 11-6 for them.
11.
I
All right,
think
If
11.
the Packers win
I
11-6,
think
they're
they get
absolutely in.
Yeah,
I think they can
so.
get to 11 because you got Chicago twice.
Yep.
You got Seattle. You got Minnesota. You got Miami. I mean, you got San Francisco. San Francisco.
That Minnesota game, I think, is going to be the.
I mean,
Minnesota
look, I could
good
see it
playoff.
getting 4. I think San Francisco's a toss-up. I think
I'd
that's
say
a pure.
4-4.
I wouldn't be shocked. I'm going to go.
I'd say
I'll
4-4 only because I could see them beating Miami, but in the same turn, I could see them losing to Seattle on the road.
You know what's funny? I could see them. I could go the other way. They
And they could
to
lose
San
both of
Francisco.
those.
I could see them
Well,
losing
both.
to San Francisco.
I don't think we're losing both,
right?
though.
I mean, no, you're right. It could go both
Well,
ways.
Alan Michaels, you are the Packer fan.
It could
What
be.
do you see?
Yeah, what do you feel, Alan?
We tend to play down to people's levels, so I could see us beating a team like the Niners and then losing to a team like the Seahawks or something. I
You
could
know
see
what's funny? I kind of think the same. I think they could beat San Francisco.
because we
losing
beat the
Seattle.
Texans and then
Well, because Seattle's not a bad football team. They're going to be their usual. What are the last 2 years? They were 9-8, so they're going to probably be 8-9, 9-8, which again keeps them alive in their division. But remember, because in the NFC West, it might be 9 wins to win your division because we know San Francisco's mediocre. You might maybe 10 wins win your division. So Seattle might be alive.
Is about to turn it into gear.
Seattle might be alive, and they played well in the second half the last 2 years. They made the playoffs. Yeah. They missed it last year and made it the year before in the last week.
I think people are forgetting about San Francisco's pedigree. They're about to
have you seen the irony? The irony of the fact that the Seattle Mariners and the Seattle Seahawks get eliminated like the last weekends of their season, the last couple of years. What is it with Seattle sports, by the way? But that's a different conversation.
I could see the two North teams at Green Bay, Minnesota, and probably Washington gets the other wild card.
So you would then go, all right, Philly wins the East.
No, Washington, I think the NFC West gets 2 teams.
Which would be Arizona.
And who doesn't get in? Washington or one of the North teams?
I think either Green Bay or Minnesota are odd man out.
And San Francisco's schedule coming up is they've got Seattle at home. Okay. Green Bay, we just showed. Buffalo, loss.
Oof.
Yeah. Bears, win. Rams, toss-up game.
Always tough, yeah. Divisional.
Dolphins.
Should win.
Should, but warm weather game. Detroit, tough game. Yeah, Arizona.
Schedule, man.
Yeah, you know what? I tell you what. I think they could go 12-5 or go 9-8. I mean, that's just kind of way their schedule looks. I mean, I could see them.
Depends on how
many games you got left. You got one.
You guys are doubting San Francisco too much. I got them going 6-2 or 7-1 in this stretch,
which would put them at 12-5. But that's what I just said. I just said no.
They're the 49ers. They'll flip it into gear before you know it. They're 11. Next thing you know, they're 11-6.
Which might win them the division because are you trusting Arizona to be?
I don't really fully trust Arizona, but I love the way they've been playing. I don't fully trust them.
I don't really trust the Arizona Cardinals. We've seen them get to a hot start multiple times with Kyler, and then they fizzle out toward the end of the season.
They got 4 wins in a row. I'll tell you that much right now. They have 4 wins in a row, and they got Seattle. They have a bye this week. They're in Seattle. That's going to be a tough game. Minnesota.
And they only beat one decent team though in those 4 games.
They got Seattle twice in the next 3 weeks.
Yep.
They got New England. Should be a win. Carolina should be a win. Rams and 49ers are going to be toss-up games. So realistically,
they have back-to-back really easy games though with the Patriots and Panthers. I mean, those should be 2 guaranteed wins.
I mean, if you do the law of attrition, if these toss-up games you get half of them, you should be 10-7.
If they could win that Washington game is big. If they could win that one, they win Seattle, right? Oh, they play. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. They play Seattle.
They got
twice.
Seattle. Yeah, Seattle twice.
And they're on their bye this week. To me, that looks like 4-3, 3-4.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think that they're going to probably end up being somewhere in that 9-8, 10-7 range. So, okay, all right. So that takes them off, and then we think 1 in the South. We just
all right. So we're saying you need 11 wins to get the wild card.
10 or 11.
Bare minimum 10. Bare minimum 10.
I'll get to the chat in a minute.
Because if they get 10, Arizona is 10. Then it gets to the tiebreakers.
And that goes. It's going to could come down to Arizona, Green Bay, right?
Well, if you might have a tiebreaker,
10-win team not make the playoffs this year.
What's that?
Yeah, you
might have a 10-win team not make the playoffs this year.
Based off what we're seeing right now, because you got now. I'll throw Washington because they're in the other team in the mix. Their schedule coming. They have 6 games left. They got Dallas, right? That should be a win. Tennessee should be a W. New Orleans a W. Philly a loss. Atlanta. Toss up. Dallas should be a win.
I mean, they have an easy rest of the schedule. I mean, that's a cake.
But here's the question. Here's my question: are they a pretender?
Yeah, because Washington. How many teams have they beaten above 500? Look at their schedule.
We'll start from the beginning. Wrong way. Okay, so here we go. So they beat Tampa under 500. And who have they beat? Arizona over 500. And that's it. Arizona over one. They got Arizona. That's their win over
I
500.
think the Bears are 4-4.
4-5.
4-5. Oh shit.
Lost 3 in a row.
Lost at Pittsburgh.
Lost to Pittsburgh 28-27, then just lost to Philly last night.
Yeah.
And they barely beat Chicago.
Yes.
They really shouldn't have beat Chicago.
Yeah.
They really shouldn't have won that game.
I don't want to say they were lucky, but that was
They
ridiculous.
were lucky. Let's be honest. They were lucky. So they would be the other team in the mix. And then,
Cowboys are 3-6. That's insane.
I'll go to the
Sure, Joe.
AFC before I go to the chat. All right, we marked Buffalo in, right? Buffalo's in.
Buffalo's in.
Yeah, I think they're going to win the division. Can we?
Kansas, yeah. Well,
Did they
Kansas,
clinch that?
and we marked Kansas City, right? Kansas City's going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, but the Chargers
Yeah, I
are
would think
also
so.
good.
Chargers.
9-0.
So it comes down to, so here's your wild cards right now. You got Baltimore and Pittsburgh, right? They're going to battle it out because,
Pittsburgh has been so surprising. They have been playing phenomenal.
and you got the South, right? Houston's got a 2-game lead, but they've lost to the Jets now, and they blew a lead against the
Yeah, forget
Detroit
the Red.
Lions.
It's only one team coming out of the South.
Okay, so then realistically now, you're going to book Baltimore right in a playoff spot. Baltimore and Pittsburgh are in the playoffs.
It's probably going to be between Cincinnati, the Broncos for that final spot, and maybe
And the
Sandy
Chargers.
and the Chargers.
Right, because if you're looking at it right here, right, so here's the 4 leaders, and then your next team is Baltimore. They're the first wild card.
Yeah.
Second wild card is the Chargers, and then it's Denver that's got the last spot. So do you put Miami alive because Tua's now played well the last 2 weeks? Do you?
Miami damn
you
near
gotta
has
give
to
them-
win out. I mean,
I'll tell you, Miami's
Yeah,
You got New England, the Raiders, right? Those are teams you should win.
2
Yeah.
wins.
Alan, your Packers on Thanksgiving. We spoke about that. Jets, right? That should be a win. Jets, Texans,
Could be, yeah.
toss-up game. San Francisco, toss-up game. Cleveland,
it should
Should be a win.
trap game though. Cold weather. Miami don't play well in cold
Yeah,
weather.
that's true. That could be right.
Jets game should be a
1,
win, but
2, 3. You know what? I don't think Miami makes it.
me,
Yeah, they have
either.
a
I
tough
think
schedule.
Miami.
They have
I'm looking at Miami, and I'm saying 7-10.
Yeah, I was gonna say because they got to make up games here. You know, what I mean?
Yeah,
They gotta-
I
they gotta run it.
I could definitely see 9-8, but they might have just fallen
Too
themselves
iffies.
too
Yeah.
deep of a hole.
Yeah,
Too iffy. All right, so I'm going to come back to the AFC. All right, so then let me go to Denver, right? We'll go to Denver, right? See how Denver's schedule is. They got Atlanta,
Toss
toss up.
that's his toss up.
Raiders.
win.
I say toss up. It's a rivalry game.
Yeah.
Rivalry game. You got the Browns. That should be a win. That should
Yeah.
It
be a win.
should be, but Miles Garrett might be going after Bo Nix. You know,
The Colts, right? That should be a win.
Yep.
Chargers. I think
Loss.
Chargers. I give
Yeah,
Chargers.
give the Chargers that one.
Yep.
I think Browns and Broncos and Bengals could be for a playoff spot.
You know what? It could be.
yeah.
So I'm looking at this
Looking at
schedule
that
right
schedule?
now. I mean,
Looking at that schedule, that looks like 3 straight L's to end the season.
they
Could be.
scream. I tell you what did they finish? 8-9 last year. They scream 8-9. They just scream an 8-9 football team.
And what are they 6-3 right now?
No, 5-5.
Do they get 5 more wins out of that?
No, I don't think so. I think they can beat Atlanta, Cleveland, and Indianapolis. The rest of these games,
3 and 4. They have 7 left.
I think it's pure toss-up. They could go 9, but I see 3 likely wins. I see 2 toss-up games, 1 likely loss, and 1 game in the Chiefs that depends on if it means anything. I'm going to say 8-9. 9-8 wouldn't surprise me.
No.
Anybody? Am I missing something?
Yeah.
No. 9-8 sounds probably.
They gotta
9-8,
win.
9 sounds about right, probably.
Yeah.
for that.
They got to win one of those games that we're not giving them, whether it's Cincinnati, one of the
I don't think they're going to Cincinnati.
one of the Charger games. They got to split with.
I can
Chargers.
see them beating the Chiefs the last game of the season if the Chiefs don't play their starters.
Well, that's why
That's
I
a
said the
possibility.
Chiefs
Yeah.
game might be an asterisk. I'm gonna still say 8-9, 9-8. I mean, you could say 9-8. That might be enough. I mean, it's interesting. 11 wins might be your wild card, your last wild card in the NFC. But this year's AFC could be 8-9. Could be 8-9 be a wild card. You know,
I don't know about that. I think
No.
it'll be 9 wins. at
Those
least.
two North teams are definitely getting in.
Well, I
Yeah.
got them marked in already. I got them marked.
Yeah,
I got them both
Pittsburgh
marked in.
in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Who's my and I got the Chargers as a wild card. So then who's I got one more wild card.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be Cincinnati.
Yeah, let's. Can we look at
I'll
Cincinnati's
go to
schedule?
Cincinnati scheduled. All right, so they got
Ooh,
Chargers Sunday night.
Mhm.
toss
Pittsburgh.
up. I'll go toss up.
I think Pittsburgh's a toss-up game.
Yeah.
Dallas should be a win.
it should be a
Tennessee
win.
should be a win. Cleveland should be a win. Broncos a toss-up game. Steelers, it's always a toss-up game.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot.
I say they split the Steelers.
I agree with that. I go with
Yeah.
that.
You know, I'm gonna say they'll beat LA on Sunday night.
If they beat LA on
If they
Sunday
beat
night,
LA, I'm
I
giving
could
them
see them
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I don't
Give
have.
them
I have a
6-1.
problem with. I don't see them going 6-1. I see.
All
I
right,
can
let's.
see
Yeah,
5-4.
here's a good prediction. Good prediction. Whoever wins that Sunday night game is going to be the wild card.
Who did you and Sharman pick in that game?
You know what? We didn't
I
do
don't
any
listen
picks this
yet.
week.
You didn't. All right.
had,
Well,
Scott
I'll listen
on,
to it
so.
on Sunday. All right. I'll listen to it Sunday. But I don't know. I just don't. I have a problem with a 4-6 team going 6-1 the rest. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm going to say 9-8. But 9-8 might be enough to make the playoffs.
It might be.
If there's a team that do it, you know, you could see Joe Burrow doing it, right? He's.
I
capable
could.
of doing it.
I could be very confident in saying, Justin, you said they split Pittsburgh. Yeah, I could go with that rivalry.
And I think that's their only loss down the stretch. I think they're going to beat LA.
Well,
They'll
but
definitely
that's still a toss-up game. That's not a.
It's absolutely a toss-up, but they're going to beat Dallas. They're going to.
And Denver still. I mean, Denver is still playing for something. Still, it's not. I mean, it's. I could say lean Cincinnati, but I don't know. I feel like they're 9-8. I would say I'm going to go safe, but 9-8 would make the playoffs. 9-8.
All right, so I'll give you they slip up and lose to the Chargers.
And that would give me the rest of the way.
That's 5-2.
Honestly,
only L I got is
that Broncos Bengals game is going to be a key component.
I agree with you
Wild card.
100%. I'm looking at that right now.
You know what? If the Bengals lose Sunday night, they're going to be 2 games behind the Chargers.
They would be, I think, 3.
Well,
Because the
they'd
Chargers
have to worry
7-3.
about Denver that final spot.
7-3, 4-7. So you're talking about 3.5 games. I mean,
That's a lot to make up.
well, but Denver's in the last spot. So realistically,
You worry about the last team.
I think 9-8 is going to make the wild card. I don't see Denver or Cincinnati getting to 10. I
That's
guess
fair.
you could say Miami's alive, but after what we saw with that schedule,
You know what?
you want
Any,
for
much
fun
work
to
to make
throw
up.
this team.
Ay,
How
ay,
about
ay.
this team?
I don't even want to look at it.
They're technically alive.
You're right.
I
Technically,
mean,
they
they
are.
don't have a horrible schedule coming up.
No,
I
they got
mean,
probably the easiest schedule of any of the teams.
yeah.
All of those are winnable games. I mean, but
I mean, if Eric can get
There's
hot
not-
and the team starts actually gelling together, I mean, they can pick up some wins. They can get on a roll.
Rodgers
Well, you
ain't
got the
getting
Colts, right, who are in disarray, right? That should
Yep.
be a win. You got Seattle
Yep,
coming
home.
up, right? That should be a win, right? Should be, but not a guarantee. Toss-up game. Miami, listen, Miami looked good the last couple weeks. All right, Jacksonville's got a lot of problems. You know, Rams is a tough matchup. Buffalo's a loss.
Yeah.
You think so?
I'll be honest, I don't see them making the playoffs with this schedule.
Yeah, probably not.
Tom going out on a limb.
I'm going on that.
Because again, you got the Rams, Buffalo, and Miami in
The
Miami.
Rams aren't that good.
Yeah, but
Not
They're
that
not
the
that
Jets
good, but
are.
they're
Not that
probably
the
gonna be
Jets
close.
are, but the Rams aren't any good.
But I
They
do trust
literally-
the Rams over the Jets.
It's a pisser because there's one hard game on their schedule. That's the Bills.
Yeah,
well, the Bills game's a loss. That's
Yeah, exactly.
in Buffalo. But maybe like Kansas City's last game. Maybe Buffalo's got stuff wrapped up. They're definitely gonna have the division wrapped up.
Easily.
They're only playing for a seed there.
Well, it's week 17, not week 18, so they're still going to be fighting for maybe top seed.
Maybe for
Kansas City.
Maybe. That's maybe.
Let me run through these comments and I'll keep them on the screen.
Could be for a 2 or a 3. I don't know. I think
speaking of TBK and the Jets, if you're Bryce Hall and Sauce Gardner after this season, do you continue to let the Jets waste your prime years?
Well, they can't go anywhere, right? Because they're not going to be free agents.
And they're going to pick. Well, actually, Breece Hall's a 2nd-round pick. Doesn't have a 5th-year option.
Right.
I'd honestly try to trade Sauce Gardner.
Okay.
James
Taylor said hello. I think he tuned out.
Still good. He's still really good.
Biggest storyline: Chiefs are the worst undefeated team in history.
No, they're not. They're not. Because the Steelers were 12-0 a couple years ago. They were not good at all.
The Chiefs' defense is incredible.
Was that the COVID year?
Listen, Mahomes hasn't even played a great game yet.
Yeah, and he's still Patrick freaking Mahomes.
Right. So he's going to get going.
Oh, yeah. You know what? And I expect it Sunday.
And you know what? And Pacheco's coming back eventually, right? So
Hollywood comes back at some point.
This is going to be a different team in a couple of weeks.
Jaden Daniels is special. If I'm Washington, I take care of that kid for years to come. He is their Lamar.
It's fair.
Yeah.
That kid definitely is an MVP in his future.
Zilla is still in the chat. She might have left. She's not a football fan. That's okay. Thank you, Zilla. Detroit is the team to beat in the NFC. Every other team is just trying to stay in the mix. A team that comes out of total irrelevance has been dangerous the past few years.
Easily.
Good for them. Yeah, I mean that's a franchise. Again, we were talking about their start to the season, and they haven't had this since like Dwight Eisenhower was president. Washington is a great team this year. Still don't think they're ready yet.
I wouldn't call them great. Let's.
They're very good.
Yeah,
but he's right though. They're not ready yet.
Definitely not.
And he's so tired of the Joe Burrow glazing.
Joe Burrow's a great quarterback.
Yeah, how do you not talk about somebody who's been this successful thus far in this?
No, Joe Burrow's great. He may not have a great team this year, but he
turned around that organization. I mean, he completely turned around that franchise.
I mean, they would have beaten the Ravens. They would have beaten the Ravens if they had any semblance of a freaking defense.
Yeah, the defense is not good.
He and Chase were cooking Baltimore's defense all day long.
Let me get to some of these games here this week. Let's get to some of the games here this week. I'm going to move this, go like this. Let's go to this week's games. All right, so we saw Philadelphia defeat Washington. The Raiders and Dolphins we spoke about, right? Dolphins get a win here?
Dolphins, yeah.
They should.
Yeah.
And speaking of Chargers fans, I want to say hello to Anastasia Rosinia here, all the way from, former San Diego Charger land, but she's tuned in here. And we'll get to the Chargers in a few minutes. I definitely want to talk about the Chargers. Burrow is a bum. If he's so great, he's a bum. He's a bum. Well, exclamation point. He got it in exclamation.
That's actually pretty funny.
Hey, TBK, newsflash. Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson hasn't.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
Okay. Browns and Saints. Browns and Saints doesn't really matter. Really matter. Colts and Jets, we just spoke about, right? Do the Jets get a win here, or the Colts continue?
Can we skip the game?
I'm not going to spend time on. I'm going through the games, and I'm not going to spend time.
I'm calling it right now. The Jets actually get a blowout victory.
Ooh, a blowout.
Well, we'll have to see about that.
Anthony Richardson is bad. If you watch him play, he is
Vikings
bad.
And Titans. You guys like the Vikings here?
Vikings.
Yeah, I mean it's. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. But listen, the Titans are not bad. How many? They would have had at least 3 more wins if they didn't turn the ball over. If Levis didn't turn the ball over early in the season.
Yeah,
so
all right.
Well, listen, I'm rooting for Tony Pollard.
I'll still go Minnesota.
That's a specialty, though.
Yeah.
Packers and Bears. We spoke about. Packers get a win here.
Yeah. Bears offensively are just a mess.
And the Packers have owned the Bears, right, in the last decade. Yeah. Well, thanks to Rodgers.
But... Aaron Rodgers, he handed over the deed to the title to Jordan Love.
So we'll give it to Green Bay.
TBK wants to say, newsflash, you support a terrible team. Your opinion is irrelevant. Again, they don't hand out rings for appearances.
All right.
Okay. Sure. I mean,
no sense.
At least get there.
Worst defense in our team's history, and Great Burrow couldn't beat us.
I think
Someone's
I think
heating.
what Justin said earlier was perfect, right? Lamar, listen, when Lamar gets to a Super Bowl,
We'll
then
talk.
we can start talking. He's going to win his third MVP this year, right, Lamar?
Easily.
Right.
And that's no
Good for him.
disrespect to Lamar.
Yeah,
We gotta win in January.
exactly.
Jaguars and Lions, right? Lions win that. The only
Yeah, they dog him.
The only thing that would matter
especially with Mac Jones.
The only thing that would matter is that do people in Las Vegas want to bet on the Jaguars because the spread's probably like 2 touchdowns, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, trust it with Mac Jones at quarterback.
Rams, Patriots. Obviously, what do you think there? Rams get a win.
I would go Rams, but the Patriots are going to keep it close.
They
I
look
think it's
good
gonna
with May.
Ravens, Steelers.
That should be a good
Steelers
one.
on this one.
I'll give the Steelers because they're at home.
Yeah.
Seahawks, 49ers. I think Ravens, Steelers, Seahawks, 49ers, kind of similar for both divisions in terms
Got to be
of
San Fran that game. Has to be.
Yeah, I'm good
San
with San
Fran,
Fran. Yeah.
If they lose that, then
Falcons, Broncos. We spoke about Denver. Maybe wins here, or
that should
maybe
be a great game.
I think if Kirk
I
Cousins
don't
is
know.
going, man.
But Kirk Cousins just went to New Orleans, and Atlanta lost in New Orleans. So shouldn't it be then Denver comes back here, Alan Michaels? I mean, are you just staying trendy?
Kirk Cousins is, he has those games where he just starts playing bad. But if he gets hot early in that game, it's gonna be a rough day for Denver.
Yeah.
Chiefs, Bills, obviously.
They're lucky. Denver, it's 50 degrees because last weekend they got like 2 feet of snow.
Oh my God.
Well,
So,
speaking of which, Chiefs, Bills is supposed to be in the 60s here in New York coming up this weekend. So that's
Ridiculous.
That's a big game.
That's the
Chiefs,
game of the week.
Yeah.
Is this where Buffalo finally ends Kansas City's run, undefeated run?
No, it's still Mahomes over. It's still Mahomes over Allen.
All right.
It'll be a tight one, but.
And Anastasia's here. We got the Chargers and the Bengals. We just spoke about that a little bit here. And
be for the wild card. Watch.
Yeah, I'll give Cincinnati
if Las Vegas, if Los Angeles wins here, I mean, I would think that they've got basically they're locked into a playoff spot. I mean, you can't say that necessarily, but you're 7-3 and you're three games in the win
might
column.
have buried the Bengals by beating them, right? You said they'll be up by 3 games.
Yeah.
Well,
it'll feel like the Chargers are locked in if they win this game.
Yeah.
Chargers are looking scary, man. I mean,
Chargers are playing well. Defense is looking good.
Herbert finally looks healthy. And his weapons are finally starting to assert themselves.
Would the Chargers be a dangerous team in the playoffs?
Gus Edwards is back healthy.
No, maybe.
And Quentin, by the way, Quentin Johnston's been a touchdown machine.
Having a sleeper season, man. He has been playing great.
Yeah. Palmer's been good as well. They're starting to get Disley involved at tight end. Chargers got a lot of good players.
And I'm not going to waste anybody's time on the Texans and Cowboys. Just assume Texans win.
Yeah.
Dallas. You want to go for the Dallas upset, Alan? You want to go do that?
No. The thing is, what's crazy is that the draft class with Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Trey Lance. I was not big on Trevor Lawrence. I did not think he was gonna be like the next great quarterback. I honestly thought it was going to be Trey Lance, and he severely let me down. So,
is Jacksonville going back to the drawing board?
No. There's too much financial commitment to Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, you have to stick with Trevor, but
I mean, they got to clean house with the coaching.
Yeah, I mean, Doug Peterson's
not coach.
He's not cutting.
Yeah, probably, but yeah, Lawrence. They just signed him too, didn't they?
Yeah.
But do you think that Doug Peterson comes back then after this season?
No.
You can't. So then wouldn't that mean you are going back to the drawing board with a quarterback? Quarterback coach.
It's not going anywhere because
they think there's too much financial commitment.
Yeah.
Whoever
comes in has to ride with him. I mean, probably at least
5 years, right? It was like 5 years, 255. So it was like $50+ million a year.
Yeah.
And Lawrence ain't terrible.
Over $200 million guaranteed.
But you're talking about now. You had last year. You were 8-2, missed the playoffs, and look at where you are now. I mean, that's basically a season's worth of work you've had now, and you've won 4 games, three games.
Also, when you look at the games, they're not all on Trevor Lawrence.
I understand that.
Right, their defense is just not good.
Their defense is terrible.
Receivers are dropping balls. I mean, if you watch some of their games, I've only watched like 2 of their games, and
there hasn't been much reasons to watch them.
It's just really ugly.
Brian Robinson, you have a receiving core full of number 2s. I mean, you don't have a definitive number 1 receiver.
Listen, that might be a good spot. Like, let's say if the guy from Detroit, the offensive coordinator,
Johnson.
He might go there because he knows he's got Trevor Lawrence. Does he go there or does he go to Chicago with Caleb Williams?
I think that feels like a Cliff Kingsbury spot.
What do you think?
From
I have
USC?
to ask. So what happens with McCarthy's going to be out after this season, right?
Toast. He's toast.
I would think so.
So then who's going to Dallas?
Belichick?
Dion.
You know what's crazy is I have a name I'm going to throw out there. It's because he's getting a lot of buzz in the past couple weeks. John Gruden has been a name looming around here.
You really think that John Gruden would get an NFL coaching job? I know he's on Barstool now, but with that history, you think that somebody
I think he will.
Really?
Somebody's going to take a chance.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I hope the Jets don't, but we'll see.
All right, leave aside what he said. His run with the Raiders was not great. It wasn't
great. No.
So you'd give him another shot?
Exactly.
Well, here's the thing. He's putting in so much work into. I'm not gonna lie. I've been kind of entertained with the "got me feeling nicey" thing. He's putting so much good publicity out there. He's completely making people forget about what all happened. And
I feel like if you look at the record of results since he won the Super Bowl, he's a sub 500 coach.
Right.
Since he won the Super Bowl, he's a sub 500 coach. So
I
leave aside what he said. Statistically speaking, he's a sub 500 coach.
Yeah.
So why would he get a job in Dallas? I don't know.
Not Dallas.
Belichick, I guess Dallas, but I don't know. Even age-wise, you really would want to give him a shot there.
You also have to have a coach who's going to actually listen to Jerry, and Belichick's not listening to Jerry.
Would Pete Carroll get a shot?
I think
Not a coach.
Nah, he's what, 70 something now, isn't
but
he?
Belichick's the same age.
I wouldn't mind if the Jets hired Carroll as like an advisor.
Yeah.
Senior advisor.
But the Jets are also going to be in looking for a new coach also after the offseason. They might be looking for a
They need a veteran head coach.
What about Saleh?
I think Saleh makes he'll definitely get a DC job somewhere. I don't know if he'll be a head coach right away, but he's definitely.
I know exactly where he's going to go. He's going to go become the Rams defensive coordinator next year. I can tell you they're not happy with the product that Chris Shula has put out there. That Ram defense has been atrocious this year.
Maybe he goes back to San Fran.
Good. You could.
You know that him and the coach are like close.
Yeah. So. Same with McVay, LaFleur.
And what about in New Orleans?
Oof. That's
horrible.
That's an ugly situation.
That's a bad. Their cap situation is absolute hell.
Yeah.
And
DK wants to talk more about Burrow. This is what he wants to say. He put it in a Facebook message. The Bills went to the Super Bowl 4 times and lost every single time. Does that make them elite? No, it makes them a team who couldn't get the job done, just like Burrow. If Joe went and won, then we could talk about him. Him and Lamar have something in common. They don't have a ring to back up their record, but statistically, Lamar is the better QB, and it ain't even close.
Yeah, but people still remember Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas and the Bills teams. I mean, they're
Jim
still
Kelly,
the Hall of Famers.
Yeah, Jim Kelly's still an all-time legend. Thurman Thomas is an all-time great running back.
And these guys might make it. Lamar's probably going to make the Hall of Fame eventually, and Josh Allen's going to make it.
I mean, 2 MVPs, you're going to get in the Hall of Fame.
Probably 3 this year.
Probably 3.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not shitting on Lamar here. Lamar's great. I mean, we're just saying Burrow deserves that recognition. He's a top 10 quarterback.
But he's got to get it. They both got to get it done.
I think he's getting a little over-offended here. This is not a Lamar Jackson bashing session. Lamar Jackson's a great quarterback, arguably one of the best in the league. But I'm just pointing out the simple fact. Burrow took his team to the Super Bowl, and Lamar has not to do that yet.
And Anastasia Rossinia was telling me about the Tyson fight that's going on that she was watching.
I'm watching it too. Why is Rosie Perez a boxing analyst?
Wait. Rosie Perez?
Yes.
Rosie Perez.
I was listening I put it on quick earlier, and I thought it was a kid. I thought maybe
I love the Burrow talk, but I got to spend a few minutes on Tyson.
Did it actually start yet, by the way?
No, they're starting soon because they're the next match.
Did you bet on Tyson and Paul, Alan?
Alan's taking a break from betting because I hit a big bet earlier this season, and then I've been like 0-12 since. So I'm taking the week off.
You went 0-12. Well, maybe that's why you should have stopped. You should stop. Period. You should never bet again. Then that's what they're telling me.
See, you
just said the
always stop right before you hit big. So
Oh, I have never gambled, so I don't really know how this works.
All right, they're doing the intros now for the fight.
All right, so you know what? We're not going to go too much longer because I know some people might want to watch the fight. So I'll ask it real quick. Who wins this fight? Does it go into a no contest? Does it matter? I mean,
it's only 8 rounds, 2 minutes each, right? So
Correct.
I think if Tyson wins, it's going to be quick within the first 2 or 3 rounds.
Is there any chance that this is all predetermined?
more
I
like
should
Very much
ask
so.
the wrestling guy and Allen. I should ask
Very
them.
much so.
Yeah, I just go back to the Tyson Roy Jones Jr. fight they had 4 years ago, and it was like totally staged. And Anastasia was talking about Tyson slapping Jake Paul at the weigh-in. She was all into that. But, I guess we'll have to find out. Okay. And Rosie Perez Zilla was an actress. She's from Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken, right? She's from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Rosie Perez is she's like a loud
right thing, right?
Yeah, she was a Spike Lee. She was in a lot of Spike Lee films. She was a loudmouth. She's had a good career as an actress, but I wouldn't say she's a boxing analyst. I don't know how that's possible.
I seen it. I was like, why is she there?
And who's the announcers there? Do we know the announcers?
Roy Jones Jr.
Ironically, because he fought Mike Tyson.
The other guy, I don't know who he is. It's a white guy. I couldn't tell you.
And you paid for this. Do you have to pay for it? You have Netflix.
No, if you have Netflix, you get it.
Oh wow. Okay, so this is
really?
Wow. So okay,
Yeah,
so
you got
I think Alan's like, I can watch this fight. All right. So you know what then? We'll move on here in a minute. Anything else anybody wants to talk NFL before I get to allow everybody to go watch the fight?
No, I think I think you guys got everything. We got Detroit, you got Kansas City, Washington.
We talked about the wild card situations.
Yeah,
we talked about
covered everything. I think.
We talked about the Monday night games. I mean, we debated. I guess I don't really know if it was a debate about Burrow. Lamar is going to win an MVP. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, still a lot of football left. Maybe the Ravens get into the Super Bowl this year. I mean, Kansas City. I definitely do agree about Kansas City. They are kind of imposters. Are they the worst undefeated team? I don't know. Are they going to be undefeated the regular season? I don't know. But, okay, you know what? I think I got the point then. Rob Maraska will be back next week. I'll talk about MLB offseason hot stove talk then. Justin, I'm going to go with you next. I'm going to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say, and I'll pass the baton to you, my friend, and let everybody go watch the fight because I'm getting a couple people telling me they want to watch the fight. So I'll let you go watch the fight. So, Justin, floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Tom. Good to be back. I know it's been a little too sparse of late. Hopefully, I'm back a little more consistently.
Yes, we're back next week live, so we definitely
Awesome.
want to have you here.
I know there was a couple weeks where you didn't have shows, and a couple weeks ago I was sick. So,
yeah, we had a couple of shows. We were here last week, but it was like an aborted show.
Yeah. So, but good to be back. Obviously, lots going on with the NFL. The NBA's getting into gear. The NHL season's gotten into gear. I'm pumped up with the way the Devils are playing. Just back-to-back wins over the Florida Panthers.
Yes.
They've been incredible. That's really all I've got. I'm paying attention to the Devils season with the Jets season. Slowly, not slowly. It's crashed and burned.
I kind of gave up on them. I was there for last week, but.
Yeah,
I mean, they're alive mathematically, but that schedule I put on the screen didn't tell me they're going to go run the table.
Yeah, the Nets Knicks game was a barn burner tonight. Brunson at the right by the buzzer beat the Nets. They won 124-122. So you got a lot going on. LeBron 4 straight triple-double.
We're not going to mention Bronny, though. No Bronny talk here.
No, he's been out of his mind. And then should go check out Ohio State versus Northwestern tomorrow from Wrigley Field.
Yeah, I was seeing some of that. The
one end zone game.
Well, that's going to be one that as we're getting ready toward the college football playoff,
next weekend's going to be huge. Next Saturday is Ohio State, Indiana from Columbus.
Indiana. Who would have
Indiana's freaking 10-0. I can't freaking believe it.
I mean, I don't even remember Indiana ever winning 10 games in my lifetime in a regular season. And here we are. And
No,
no,
I mean,
seriously, I don't really think they've been more than like an 8-5, 8-4.
I mean, you're looking at 4 Big Ten teams, easy contenders for the playoff. You got Oregon, number 1 overall.
Oregon, I know, is playing on Peacock tomorrow. I saw that.
Indiana, they're 10-0 right now. Ohio State, Penn State's still in the mix.
Although the way people are talking about Franklin and his job, you wouldn't think so.
Well, Franklin tends to choke in big games. I mean, he can't beat Ohio State.
The Brian Kelly of Penn State. Yep.
He really just can't. He can't beat Ohio State.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, those teams. I mean, I couldn't believe Georgia lost to Ole Miss last week.
Georgia's in big doo-doo right now.
Because Alabama's in the up and coming again. Yeah, after a little bit sluggish early portion of the season, so it might be another Alabama Georgia SEC championship, and I don't know. I could put Georgia in a little trouble here.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something we're going to talk about. Obviously, here we're getting ready toward conference championship games, bowl season, all coming up here. So you have 2 more weeks of the regular season, then those conference championship games. We'll talk about it on next week's show. If you're on Instagram, go give Justin a follow, and definitely looking forward to having him back here for the rest of the way here throughout the end of the regular season going into the NFL playoffs. Good stuff, Justin. Welcome back. Good to have you back. And hello to Joey Bostrom, who I know was supposed to have tuned in and said he was going to be here, but maybe he's watching the fight as well. But Zilla doesn't care about boxing, and Rosie Perez's name sounds familiar. Roy Jones Jr. was pound for pound at one time the greatest boxer, probably the 1990s, and he fought Mike Tyson, ironically, the last time he was in a ring. The last time, I say, with open and closed parentheses. Thank you for that, Zilla. Thank you, Justin, as well. Chris, I'm going to pass the baton to you. I'm going to give you some closing thoughts, and anything else you want to plug, share, or say, floor is yours.
Tom, thanks, guys. Great show. Just looking forward to the rest of the football season. Should be a good second half. A lot of good teams out there. Looking forward to it. And of course, hot stove baseball is the big thing, right?
Yep, I listened to the show with you and Rob. A lot going on with Mr. Soto.
Yep, definitely. Teams are lining up now and talking to him. So hopefully we'll get an answer in the next couple of weeks. I don't think it's going to go past Christmas. I think by second week of December at the latest.
Guys in the past, last year and a couple of years prior to that, there was, guys that didn't sign for a while.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen though with him, because it's it's pretty. If there's 5 teams, it's like, all right, give me your best offer, and then let's get this done. So I think it'll happen pretty quick wherever he ends up. But looking forward to that. Looking forward to talking more hot stove baseball in the next few weeks.
Yes.
Check out the check out the Liftoff Jets this week.
We're gonna play that Sunday on Sportswire, as I always do when I wake up. Yep.
We had Scott Mason from PlayLikeAJet.com. Just kind of went over the Jet situation. Just kind of caught up how we got here, and hopefully how we could move on from this and get better. So we'll see. So anyway, look up that Liftoff Jets, NYMLB talk as well. And I'm on Twitter, CP7NY.
Yep, and I have your Instagram, because I know people like Zilla are on Instagram, not X, so I wanted to pass the baton on to Instagram. Follow Chris there. You can check out the Liftoff Jets coming up here Sunday afternoon on sportswireradio.org via the Listen Live button. New York MLB Talk is also up on our page, and I sent you the show to Rob, so Rob should have the copy of it now, so you'll be able to put that up on Spotify, cool, iTunes, and other places as well. So
and I'm on Spreaker now, too. I set it up.
Oh, good. And I think Blue Sky's a thing now. Neil Villapiano is on Blue Sky. I saw somebody else.
So I'm just checking it out.
Yeah, I'm on Threads, but I gotta be honest. I gave up on Threads. It's like,
yeah, Threads is not great, but I think Blue Sky's gonna catch on. You see a lot.
It looked good. It looked promising. I tell you,
it looks like Twitter. It looks exactly like Twitter.
Well, then I may consider that. But okay, thank you for that. And certainly, last but not least, and before I do anything, Anastasia was telling me that right now there's some volume issues on Netflix with the fight. She was telling me a little bit right now. I don't know. I'm in another Discord chat with a bunch of
I'll tell you in a second.
sports. Yeah, I'm in a chat with a bunch of non-sports people, and they're telling me like that they're having problems also. So I don't know.
If you guys want to watch it, I think I could share the screen if you don't go live, right? As long as we're not recording it, I could share my screen.
I
if you want.
It's not a big deal. Yeah, I
No?
don't want to put it live because I will definitely get
No,
thrown
if
off
you don't go
YouTube.
live, you're not recording. I think we could do it.
Well, let me think about it here first. Let me go to Alan because I know Alan looks like he wants to get to the floor. Alan, let me give you some closing thoughts. Welcome back. Good to see you, my friend. Anything else you want to plug, share, or say? And the floor is yours.
Yeah, Packers have a pretty tough schedule here coming up. It's going to be a pretty tough race to get in the playoffs. The Milwaukee Bucks are off to a really
Giannis had 59 points. All they kept talking about on SmackDown was Giannis at 59 points.
Yeah, but you have 59 points, but when you start the season that damn bad, I mean, looking pretty rough. I think Darvin Ham was a bad decision to hire.
He got 59 though. He did get 59.
I mean, yeah, that's cool and all, but let's get some wins.
Have you scored 59 points in a game before? Probably not.
I haven't. No.
The most I ever scored in a basketball game when I played was 8 points. That was my high, 8 points.
I bet you threw a lot of assists though, Tom. But I bet you were.
I did have when I played I did play CYO. I think I had like 12 rebounds was like my high. I had like 12 rebounds or something like that.
So you getting the boards. I see you, Tom.
I'm 6 foot. No, they put me down in the post. I was always like they put me like at forward. I was like small forward or power forwards. That was my I think 12 rebounds was my best game. I like to say.
But yeah, I'm doing YouTube now. I'm making college football ultimate team videos. Got a little series going on.
Tag me as a collaborator. I will share it on my Instagram pages. I have 2 of them. So
got you. We're dropping videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, starting this Monday. I already put my first.
Are you live on YouTube?
I don't go live on YouTube. No, I go live on Twitch when I stream.
Okay.
Well, that's gonna be
Notify
like
me when you're on Twitch again. Notify me when you're on Twitch.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't really have a set time for streaming. I kind of just do it when I have spare time.
Okay.
Been playing.
I might be around the next couple of weeks, so maybe I'll pop in.
Been playing a lot of Phasmophobia on stream. It's been a scary game.
Well, Barry plays like Supermarket Stimulator. I don't know why he plays it.
I played on my phone. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, well, Barry's probably that's what he's doing right now. But all right. Well, you want to say anything else, Alan?
No. I mean, all of my links are in my link tree in my bio. But yeah, other than that, I'm just excited for the next chapter of what I'm doing.
I think I'm very excited about that. I can't wait to be a part of it. I'm looking forward to what you do in the world of gaming and football talk. Alan, you're going to be here every week talking football with us. Very excited about that. Very excited about the rest of the football season. Are you ready? And we'll see what happens between Tyson and Paul. We'll let everybody go watch that fight. We want to thank Randy Dillon for being here. Also, TBK was in the chat. Thank him as well. Anastasia Rosinia was here. Zilla was here. A lot of great people were here. We thank them for that. We'll be back here next Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern time with Rob Moroska as well. And we were joined here by Justin Gianelli of Baseball Banter formerly, and now back with us on Sportswire Radio, Chris Bazaya, host of the Liftoff Jets and the New York MLB Talk, and Alan Michaels, the trendsetter who is now certainly setting trends as a streamer on YouTube, Twitch, and doing College Football 25, plus much, much more. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice figuratively and literally where all wrestling matters. If you're on Sportswire Radio, you're going to go back to your regularly scheduled programming. We will be back here tomorrow, I believe, 9 o'clock Eastern time with legendary Backyard Wrestling from North Dakota. They'll be here, but until then, enjoy the fight. Thank you, Zilla, for tuning in, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the fight, and we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you next Friday with the guys